metal.
Yeah, well, got to go, got to go. So let's see what happens May 16th there, Marie.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Let's see what happens on May 16th.
Okay. Update me. What's happening on May 16th?
Well, I'm representing a driver that got charged for careless and reckless.
Mm-hmm.
And I've already got a reporter interested in the story that's on Channel 2 in West Virginia that may have a camera crew there because they did a warrantless arrest and the cop never saw a crime committed, and they don't even know if it was him.
Whoa, interesting.
Yeah. And I've already done my notice of special appearance along with my packet as a representative of E-Clause, which Marie probably knows about E-Clause. And so Chris Hallett has put my name in the books as a representative of E-Clause. And the DA, he refused my registered mail packet of notice of appearance. So that's going to come back to bite him in the ass probably.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, then they're going to go through all the crap. Well, you don't have a license to practice law. And I'll be like, well, neither do you.
Wonderful. I can't wait.
I at least have a power of attorney that tells me I can do all this because it's in your own West Virginia code.
Cool.
But codes are not law.
Yep.
You know, they're only evidence that there is a law.
Yep.
And I have a copy of an Idaho court case where the Supreme Court Justice in Idaho admitted that codes are not law. They're only evidence that there is the law.
Wow.
And I was like, holy crap, he did say that. And what it is he was getting ready to retire, and he was fed up with the system and how corrupt it is. So he exposed it.
Seen that before with some of the older guys.
Yeah, the older gentlemen with judges and attorneys, they actually did care about justice. It's the newer generation that would just rather rob their grandmother instead of get her justice.
Well, I think they've been misled.
Oh, guess what? Chris Hallett has it sitting in front of him, Marie.
What?
He has the opportunity to shut down the Florida State Bar. The state bar has actually contacted him and said, we want to join your organization. We see what you're doing. We think it's great. And he told them to fuck off, right? And I said, Chris, no. Tell him it's a $250 annual fee per attorney to be in good standing, and here's the rules to the game. You have the ability to set the parameters of what they have to do. I said, you're setting one to shut down the floor.
Now, Ollie B, you're cutting out, so I'll have to
It's
manage.
going to happen.
I think we have David on Diane here. I think he's 352 phone number. Who is 843? I need a list.
Me.
Who's me?
Charles.
Oh, okay.
So what are you talking about?
We were talking about a court case that Alibertatum is working on, and where a cop did not actually see a crime. And we're talking about, let's see, what, oh, jeez.
We're just talking about odds and ends while we're waiting on everybody to get on.
Yeah, we didn't start
okay.
the, How much time are you able to be in the meeting, Charles?
About
Do you have
12 minutes.
Oh, okay. Is there a special thing that you wanted to talk about tonight during your 12 minutes?
I would love to have confirmation on the stupid passport deal because I still haven't got a straight answer. We actually talked to a part-time officer last night that is acquainted with my wife because she worked in a small town office as a town administrator, and he was one of the officers at the time. And he said if you use passport, and I talked to Chris about this a little while ago, and you give it to them and you ask them to run through NCIC, there's a bunch of hoops they jump through, and they can't even do it from the car. They got to call in and get it done. And you have to have something like a case number or a docket number or a file number or something to even for them to do that. They said chances are they won't even do it. They'll just look at the passport, mull it over, and then just let you go. So we still don't have confirmation, or I don't have confirmation from anybody about a passport being worth a flip as an identification in a traffic stop.
You don't have confirmation that passport ID is valid identification?
For a traffic stop.
Sean Haggerty's used it on his. My buddy Popeye out in California, he used it as an identification to when he visited his parole officer. Now, according to what he told me, because he got his passport at my request, okay, when I explained it to him. So he goes to the parole hearing, well, the probation hearing, and he hands it to the probation officer. The probation officer said, I can't accept this. He said, show me the law. You said identification. You didn't say which. So he couldn't show him the law. So what the probation officer did was he goes back to his office, calls the sheriff, they run the passport, and all of a sudden they get quiet. And he picks up the phone, talks to the sheriff. He comes back out a few minutes later, hands him the card, and this is all hearsay. I know Popeye, and this is what he told me. He said the probation officer looked at him and said, nice separation from the name, and handed him his ID back.
Did they let him go?
Yeah.
Now, how was it signed? Do you know how their passport forms were signed?
Well, honestly, if you sign anything that's a government contract, you should be putting ARR and without prejudice.
Do you know what star count they got?
Well, I don't know. I think he had 3. I know Sean Haggerty's got 5. And
Yeah, I would like to know because I followed a process that was supposed to guarantee 5 stars, is what I was told, because the gentleman that got me the paperwork wasn't supposed to give the paperwork out, and he paid to take classes to do it. And I followed the exact same forms he did, and the exact same paperwork he used, and I got 3 stars, and he got 5.
I don't know if there's any truth in that star count. I've not been able to get that confirmed. All I've got is people. So you have one person here that will say, yeah, that's what it means. But I've never seen anything that even alludes to that. David Strait, he has his. And according to Kirk Pendergrass is the one that interviewed David Strait and looked at his, and he said it's not those stars are not the relevant issue. There's a code that they put on it. Now, don't ask me what the code is, but there is a code number at the bottom, okay? And he said there's a code in that string of letters and numbers at the bottom that you got to look for.
I have even heard the stars put you on a scale where they watch you closer the more stars you have.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't see anything that confirms that whether or not the stars actually mean anything. The only thing you can do is do a FOIA request and ask for what does the stars mean and how to read the code at the bottom and see what they send you.
I think somebody's already done the FOIA for the stars, and they were turned down because it was proprietary or classified information.
Then that's a possibility. And honestly, like I said, I've heard similar stories between people that have 3 and people that have 5. I don't think the star count really matters. It's how do they put you in the system that matters. It's no different than the Social Security card. The Social Security card name on the card does not match the name on the birth certificate. Why? Because Social Security Administration does not recognize a middle name because you don't have a middle name. You have a given name and a last name.
Yep.
So it's
Okay.
all about how they put you in the system. And you, unless you got a cop friend that is an absolute close, tight buddy with you, that'll say, "Yeah, I'll show you what it shows in my system." You're not going to find out.
What he said was they can't even run it in the car. He said they got to call dispatch and have dispatch run it from there.
According to what's been said, they can run it in the car, but it's got a red flag on it. They're not allowed to go any further. And when it and they are, and what Sean said, he's been pulled over 2 or 3 times. He hands them his passport ID. They go run it. They come back and apologize for pulling him over and say, "Would you mind slowing down a little bit? But have a good day."
Yeah.
I don't think Sean blows a lot of smoke. I've seen some.
I wouldn't think so. Not from what I've read and what I've listened to him. Okay, appreciate it, man.
You're welcome. Oh, speaking of passport, I got denied on mine, but I ain't done with it.
Well, I had signed my form in purple ink at the post office, and I had to turn around and redo it in black.
Well, I didn't put the social on it.
I didn't do mine on there, but I had an explanatory statement with it. It was written on the last page of that. But obviously, they didn't find that because they sent me that form from Sterling, Virginia, saying that I had to supply the passport.
Yeah,
And
they
sign it in
sent
black
me.
ink. I mean, the
They-
passport,
they-
the social.
Yeah, they sent me that same form also and said, "If you didn't get one, please sign this under penalty of perjury." I didn't do either. I sent them an explanation back. I said, "I think there must be some confusion. I mean, if someone there has some firsthand knowledge that I was issued a social security number, would you please produce the evidence that I was so I can check it for its veracity?" And they sent me back a denial letter. I said, "So I've been talking to them saying, what the fuck?" So now I was waiting on a supervisor to call me, and Monday, since I haven't heard anything, when I get back on the road Monday, and oh, by the way, and I'm recording the phone calls, I will be trying to get in touch with a supervisor, and I say, "I'm going to talk to somebody to answer my question. I paid $300. I signed a contract. You didn't honor that contract." I said, "I want an administrative hearing." "Oh, well, there isn't one." I said, "Don't tell me there isn't one. You are an agency. Every agency has an administrative process."
Are you still
And
there?
just do like I've been doing. Just keep my head down.
Oh, Marie will tell you I am not one to keep my head down. If you don't have, you do not have the rights you are not willing to defend. So I am very loud and vocal.
I mean, I will be, but I mean, everywhere I travel, everybody likes to run 10, 15 miles an hour over the speed limit. I'm not doing that. I'm going to run 5 to 7, maybe 8. And if they don't like it, that's just too damn bad. They can go around me. And I just
Yeah.
I don't care. I've been pulled over and I've been told that sign doesn't say it's a suggestion. They've said you better slow down. And I know North Carolina, which I don't live in anymore, they were starting to mandate it that if you go more than 2 over, they're going to pull you over. They're going to cite you for it. So these people don't care. Again, they slow down for about a month or two, and then they all sped back up again. They're all running 75, 77, 80, and the 70. And I'm like, go ahead, go around me. I don't care.
I'm
You
a
get
truck
pissed off.
driver.
You go around.
I'm a truck driver. My truck tops out at 70 on the floor, 68
So
on
you're
the
governed.
cruise. Yeah, so 68 on the cruise, that's fast enough for me. I pay for the fuel.
Yep.
And if the speed limit drops to 55, guess what? I'm gonna set this cruise at 57. That's fast enough. I ain't trying to get no ticket. I got a career.
Yeah. Yeah. And these people just act like it's the Audubon.
I heard rumors that one legislator was looking at the possibility of turning one of our interstates into an Audubon.
I hope it's not where there's any wildlife.
Oh, in other words, a Democrat community?
I live in deer country.
Well, you can have special bridges.
You'd have to have something. They'd have to be elevated highway or fence it off like a HOV lane or a bus lane or something.
No,
Limited
shoot.
access.
I think the speed limit sometimes is too darn low.
A lot of it is. My wife and I were just discussing that last night. These wide open stretches in the country and the speed limit is 55 or 60. And why? There's very little access to these highway. There's nothing out here, and you're running 55 or 60, and it's all because of the tax money.
Well, it's the same reason with fuel mileage on the vehicles. Our fuel mileage sucks compared to, say, Europe. But they won't get it no better because why? They want you paying those taxes.
They won't make any money.
I know, right?
Well, I hate it, but guys, I got to go, unfortunately.
Bye.
All right, good
Glad
night.
you could
See
join
later.
us. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, me too. Bye.
Okay, Sandy, we're ready. David, you're here, right?
Yeah, Marie, I just got back from my travel.
Okay.
Well, was I supposed to present something?
Oh, wait a minute. You're
Bergeron.
Yeah, I have trouble with your name. Okay, David Ondai, you're here, right?
I haven't seen him on yet.
Oh, that's 352 isn't him?
I don't know.
I don't see the whole phone number. It's hard to tell. All right. All right, Allie B. You're still. Go ahead and tell us what you want to tell us.
Who?
You.
Don't really know.
All right.
I mean, it's not like I had anything specific to go over. I just said I ain't been on here in a while. I'd jump on and say hi, see what you're talking about, you know.
Well, I want to do a meeting with you with the POA and the IRS and that stuff. There was one more thing, but I forget what it was.
Oh, well, the IRS stuff right now?
Well, I
It
want
was,
documents for that POA stuff. I want all of that laid out in steps.
Well, go look up the North Carolina General Statute. Okay. 312. No, let me look. No, it's 32C. It's North Carolina General Statute 32C -2-12.
All right, I'll go look it up later.
No, I want you to. You got
No, I'm
share
not.
screen. You
Oh,
got
gosh.
screen
Okay,
share.
let
I
me
do
see.
not. I'm driving.
I don't know how much I can share on this thing.
I want you just to read the first two paragraphs of the statute.
Okay, let me
And
see.
this exact wording is in almost every state. It is not in every state. It's only in the states that have accepted the Uniform Power of Attorney Act. The ones that didn't, they might have similar language, they might not. But this is dealing with claims and litigations.
You know what? I just want to wait until you're going to do it with us. I want to spend time with you when you're at your computer, okay?
No, read it. Seriously. I want you to read it because everybody will hear what you read and then answer one question.
Well,
Is
it's too
that
hard for me to
not
manage everything when I'm trying to manage other things while I'm doing this.
okay? Well, who else can do screen share and can read it?
Who wants to do reading?
I'm at my desktop, so I can pull something up and read if nobody minds.
All right.
I don't mind.
So what do? I always get confused with that.
You make him a co-host.
How do I do that?
Click on the participants, and then click on the person, and make co-host.
Let me see. Well, it says make host. Will that make him co-host?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. There you go, David.
How do I? All right, now how do I? Oh, I see share.
Yes. I'll do screen share.
This one? Share.
There you go. Now it's pulling up. Now, go look up North Carolina. Say NCGS 32C-2-12. This should be claims and litigation.
Oh, I see. Chapter 32C, North Carolina General Assembly, in Google search.
Yes.
Okay, pull it up. First two paragraphs.
Is that claims and litigation?
I am in Article 1, Definitions and General Provisions. Chapter 32C, correct?
Yes, scroll down to 2-12. If you want to do Control F, just type in claims and litigation. It'll go right to it. Right there it is. It's 32. It's 2-212. Okay, there you go.
Okay.
So read those first two paragraphs, which you got the title paragraph, and then you got paragraph.
Okay, section 32C, 2-212, claims and litigation. Unless the power of attorney otherwise provides, language in a power of attorney granting general authority with respect to claims and litigation authorizes the agent to do all of the following. Number 1, assert and maintain before a court or administrative agency a claim for relief, cause of action, counterclaim, offset, recoupment, or defense, including an action to recover property or other thing of value, recover damages sustained by the principal, eliminate or modify tax liability, or seek an injunction, specific performance, or other relief. 2, bring an action.
Now stop. Is that not everything an attorney does?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
It sounds like that's what attorneys file paperwork for. This is the first time I'm seeing it, so
So, well, now if you look at it, it says to provide defense. Now, when do you need a defense? When you are the defendant, right?
Correct.
So if you hold in your possession a power of attorney, say I give you a power of attorney and make you my agent. So if you are the agent that I have the contract with, you're able to file claims. You're able to do a defense. You're able to do all of that. That's everything an attorney does. But what do these bar members say? Oh no, it don't mean that. Really? I know how to read.
Would you like me to keep going?
Oh, if you want to read the rest, you can.
I'll read unless your point's made. I mean, it makes sense.
Well, my point, that was really all I was wanting to do is make that point on the power of attorney, because it says what it says. Now, under the void for vagueness doctrine, any law that is written has to be written in such a way where the common man can understand it. And who are we? The common man.
Right.
Okay? So when I read that, it says, wait a minute, I'm the agent. I have the authority to do all this on behalf of his estate because he made me power of attorney.
So how would I use this for myself? I'm in a predicament, I guess. Should I make the prosecutor? Should I hand them a power of attorney or make them a fiduciary?
You could.
Then they have to handle it, or make the judge a fiduciary or a power of attorney, and then they handle it, and this is done.
Well, that's one way to do it. I know Sean Haggard, when he had the IRS come after him one time, he said, shoot, I just filled out a limited power of attorney. I got the agent's name, and I made the agent the power of attorney for the estate. He said, now you have the authority. Go get the information you're after. And they went away. They didn't bother him no more.
So should I make the arresting officer? I mean, who do I? Because I'm really fighting a lot of things that I'm going through. Marie knows a little bit about what I'm going through, but
I don't really know. You would actually need. I would say you would have to. The officer usually has an 80 IQ, which means he's a moron and don't know shit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do the officer. If I was going to do anybody, I would figure out how to write a power of attorney that is self-executing, and make a limited power of attorney, giving, say, the judge or the district attorney, as in you name whichever one, as the power of attorney and your fiduciary to your estate, and lay out the terms of the power of attorney.
That's interesting. Then that makes them all liable, and it gets me out of the situation.
Well, and it also, if you make it if you write it properly as a self-executing contract, as in, here, you have this, and I mail it to you, and if you do not respond within 10 days of receipt of this, then it is self-executing and binding.
Uh-huh.
So if he was to get it in the mail from you, and you put your name on the envelope, be kind and courteous, just put it right there on the envelope. And if he puts it on the desk and says, oh, I'll read it later, you've got a copy, I would send it registered mail, restricted delivery, because anytime there's a contract is property. Whose property? One of the parties. It's yours when you offer it, it's his when he accepts it. So it has a value. Because property always has value, right?
Correct.
And what is property in law? Property is the rights and interest in a tangible item. It's not the tangible item itself. So the property is the rights and interest in the contract. And then you say, you send it to him, send it registered mail. Hey, if he doesn't refuse it, but he accepts it and it doesn't come back, even if he doesn't open it, and it's sitting on the desk, you go to court the next day. I said, hey, wait a minute here. Me and John Doe, we have a contract. Oh, really? Yeah. Would you like to see a copy of said contract, Your Honor? Oh, yeah, I would. Let me see it. And you hand them the registered mail number and make sure the registered mail number is tied to your copy of the contract. And the contract number is this. He never responded within the 10 days per the terms of the contract. He's my power of attorney. And handle this matter. And if he doesn't open it, he just ignores it, leaves it sitting on his desk, he's going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm not your power of attorney. I said, did you read the contract? Well, no. Ignorance of the law is no excuse, and the contract makes the law. And I gave you 10 days to to dispute it.
Yeah. So I was I'm all through my case and I'm at sentencing right now. And I couldn't
Well,
make it to my final hearing. So now there's a warrant.
well, a warrant is just a piece of paper. It's a check.
I agree.
Now, they bring a warrant. You know, that's pretty. I like that piece of paper. But can you tell me where the bond is at that's attached to that warrant?
I've been asking for the bonds.
Okay. Well, make sure you document everything.
Oh, I have stacks of paper.
Yeah, good. I mean, I'm not going to tell you you ain't going to get sentenced and you ain't going to go wherever they send you. But can you afford anything right now?
Depends.
Can you afford $75?
Yeah, I can do that.
Go look up the Mason's manual.
Okay.
The Mason's manual, make sure your state legislature actually uses the Mason's manual first. The Mason's manual is your legislative procedures for your state if they use that. Some states use the Jefferson's manual, some use I think it's the Reed's manual, but 70% of the states use the Mason's manual. And I've learned something recently. You have a constitutional right, a protected right of redress of grievances, right?
Mm-hmm.
The proper court of law or the court of justice is not the court everybody thinks it is. You are to file a petition of remonstrance to the legislature. The legislature actually is the one that hears the petition. The legislature then issues a finding on whether or not there needs to be an investigation. If there needs to be an investigation, they turn it over to the executive branch to investigate it. If the executive branch does an investigation and says, yes, there are criminal activity, they report back to the legislature. The legislature then starts up articles of impeachment. And once they do the articles of impeachment, if they impeach the officer, that frees up the man to be sued by a tort.
So a petition of what?
Remonstrance. Where we discovered this at is Kirk Prendergast, Chris Hallett, and John Gentry was out in D.C. last year. And they happened to go through the Congressional Library. And hanging on the wall was a divorce decree. And it started off with at the top saying it's a petition of remonstrance and a divorce decree. And who issued the divorce for the couple? Congress. Congress is the court of we the people.
Okay. And when I get this petition written up, where do I file it?
When you got to learn the procedures, you got to be able to produce the evidence to show. You have to do your exhibits, okay,
Mm-hmm.
to show the criminal activity, and you file it with your state legislature.
Okay.
Because your state legislature is the court of the people of the state of whatever.
I have the evidence of the judge practicing law from the bench.
Yeah, well, you got to. That's one of the things I've been learning lately. Is that right there? Is how to hold their feet to the fire. And it's very interesting. The New York Times put out an article last week about what's on display. And what is it about? The petition of remonstrance. It's the petition of remonstrance was one of the founding petitions that was done in this country to send it to the legislature, because what is the legislature? It is a court.
Mm-hmm.
They have the same power. They actually have the powers of a court. By the time you get to what we call a court in this country, you're actually going to the bank, and somebody's got to pay the debt because the damages has already been presumed. That's why both parties have to be bonded, because somebody's got to prove there's an actual debt. When you go there, that's too late to bring the Constitution into it. You were there to pay a debt. You never went to the actual court, which is the legislature. That's why they have the powers of impeachment. That's why they have the procedures they have. That's where they've dumbed us down. Okay, we think the redress of grievances is, oh, you go down to your local circuit court. No, the redress of grievances is in the proper court, which is your legislature or Congress, depending on what you're redressing.
This judge is going to have a nice letter from me, or a nice awakening, I should say.
So do some research on a petition of remonstrance.
Mm-hmm.
Go find out if your state legislature uses what legislative manual they use, even if you got to call the office, and just play halfway innocent and ask them. Usually they're really nice if you talk to them, right? And say, I'm just doing some research of what manual what legislative manual do y'all use? Is it the Mason's manual, the Jefferson manual, and I can't remember the third one. And they'll probably just outright tell you the rules. I did that with North Carolina. North Carolina said, well, we use the Mason's manual, but the legislature has some of their own rules that are in addition to that. And then the Senate actually has their own rules, and they use the same manual as Congress, which I found out today was the Jefferson's manual. I said, oh, well, I greatly appreciate your time. And I went to the only place you can buy the Mason's manual, because the newest edition, you can only get it at one place. It cost me $75. It's a hard copy book. It's sitting back there on my bed.
Is there anything you want me to look up while I'm still screen sharing?
Oh, not at the moment, no. If the conversation leads to that, then yeah.
That's fine.
I know right now for the next 15 miles, my signal will go in and out, but I shouldn't never drop the call. I'm on the West Virginia Turnpike at the moment.
I just got back from a long trip. I was away for 2.5 weeks.
See, I am more and more of the opinion that we're all trying to do certain processes to get out of the system, right? The system is not going to let the slaves free without a fight. So you need to also be learning their rules to hold their feet to the fire to get yourself free. So when you file a paper with a certain agency requesting information or to get recognized a certain way and they won't honor that, then what do? You pull them before the legislature, or you pull them before Congress with a remonstrance and say, hey, I'm doing everything legal here. Your idiot up there isn't. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Remonstrance petition process. The process is unique to Indiana. The carrier, I'm reading the wrong thing. Toolkit, indiana.gov, Indiana, Delaware, 1768 petition. Yeah, I was just learning about the supremacy clause a couple days ago because I got tired of hitting my head against the wall for trying to find stuff specific to my state,
What state is that?
Pennsylvania.
Oh, I know Pennsylvania pretty well. I got it. My wife lives up there.
Oh, yeah, I'm in central Pennsylvania, north of Harrisburg.
Yeah, that's where my wife lives. Is right out is in Harrisburg.
So yeah, I found out that all Pennsylvania State Police troopers are bonded under one bond. I found out that all the judges for the entire state are bonded under one bond. And then there's crim bonds for the municipalities. I'm getting ready to file my claims against bonds, but I don't know how that will go since Pennsylvania's self-insured.
Well, the one thing I learned about this remonstrance, since this, you remember that I know you've heard the rumors about Bradley Stark and the contract he did where that got Attorney General Holder kicked out, where it was the arbitration clause, right?
This is new to me, but I'll listen.
Okay. See, when you're doing the remonstrance and you're filing a petition, you are laying out certain allegations. Not only are you laying out allegations, you are using the codes where the damages are at to claim a certain amount of money, right?
42
So
USC 1983.
well, that might be one of the codes. Yeah, there's a list of there's a list of codes out there with penalties attached. So what do? You attach a fee schedule based on what's been done to the remonstrance, and you submit a true bill with it. So what happens is they go through the remonstrance process, and they say, well, let's look at the petition. They look at the evidence, they review your exhibits, they review everything, right? Then they see how much your bill is worth. If they rule in your favor, what happens? They send the bill to the Treasury and say, Treasury, pay the man. Because they have to put it in the budget for the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you do. Because by the time you go up in the front of Judge Wapner, you've done fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
You're never going to get anywhere there.
So how do I? Well, now I'm asking just questions. Now I'm taking over the conversation. I'm sorry about this. If anybody else has questions, and I'll shut up if somebody wants me to. But how do I get the warrant released, and how do I get this case from sentencing moved or stopped or paused?
Well, one of the things you can do is go get a certified true copy of the entire case file in chronological order, all right? Send the case file off to the Secretary of State to have it authenticated, okay? And then once you get it authenticated, then you file it at the Register of Deeds, which is not going to be cheap because depending on how thick the file is, and you claim it as your property. See, right now, you have what, as Sean puts it, you have legal title, but you do not have equitable title. The state does. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And what you got to do is merge legal and equitable title. The authentication process makes it 100% acceptable in a court of law's evidence. And another thing is, did you ever put in a private exemption bond into the case file?
I couldn't get a straight answer on how to do that. I figured out how to do GSA bonds, but I don't know how to file it.
Okay, a bond does not constitute an appearance. A bond is just a bond. You write a one-page bond. Go look up the Pennsylvania creditor and debtor laws. That's where it's going to be at. Or go find where the codes are at on dealing with a case bond. Okay? It'll tell you what you got to put. And it's only a few things. You can usually fit everything on one page. Now, your bond number is your birth certificate number, and your exemption account is your social without dashes. Trust me, I did this in a family court case.
Okay, I'm listening.
So, are they going to admit it? Hell no. But you will see their attitudes change. You'll see them act differently. Now, you also do a letter rogatory directing, do you have a public pretender?
No, it's me, and I filed the letters rogatory. The judge dismissed it as nonsensical. I used Gene
Okay.
Keating's.
Well, it's nonsensical because why? He's not your attorney. A letter rogatory is you telling your attorney how to handle things in the private. So handing it to the judge, he's not your attorney. That's practicing law from the bench. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You are the man that has to handle things in the private. You get that one-page bond written, and when you go to court, you read the bond into the record. Okay? And you need one bond for each docket number. So if you've only got one, you're lucky. I had 14.
Wow.
Yeah, because I've learned, like, say you got the original docket number, the original matter, and then later you see a similar looking docket number, but they put a / say 17B. All they did was created another bank account. It's a sub account of the main account.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So every one of those docket numbers, you would do a one-page exemption bond. And all I did was copy what it said from the statute and just modified it to fit my situation. In other words, your given name is John Michael, family name of Doe, and I am the principal for the surety. The surety is the name on the docket, and what they do, I've noticed one of the things they do is they don't always put the all caps name.
I've seen that.
But here's what they do. They'll put the first name and the middle initial and a last name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, why is that?
It's because it's another account.
No, because it's still not you.
Okay.
Social Security Administration does not recognize middle names. You don't have a middle name. You, the man, have a given name.
Yeah, I read that. Actually read that today.
Yes. So the account name may be John M. Doe, but at the Social Security Administration, that's probably what it says. It is not John Michael, which is the given name, and the family of Doe. It's not going to be that.
Hmm. I've seen a one-page exemption bond, so I'm familiar with what you mentioned.
Yeah. Shoot, I just looked up the I looked up the New York freaking code where it talks about the case bond, and all I did was copy and paste their code, changed a few words, and then added a few things of my own, and I sent it to the courts. Now, the GSA bonds, where are you sending them to?
I have no idea. I can't get a straight answer, but I filled them all out.
Okay,
90, 91, the 25s.
You need one original copy of all 5 pages, right? You got standard form 24, standard form 25, 25A, and 28.
And the optional 9091.
Optional 9091, yes. Now, once you fill those out, you got one set of originals per docket number.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You attach the charging instrument, which if you have a copy of the indictment, attach that. If you have a copy of the complaint, attach the cover copy and leave it at that.
Okay.
because it's got the caption for the case with the account number. Okay. And you get a color copy of your birth certificate and attach it to it.
I even had that notarized by. I have that. I'm that far.
Oh, don't worry about whether or not it's notarized as a certified true copy. What you do with your birth certificate is you just take a good, clear picture with your phone and then print it out. Make sure you crop out the so it's just the document, not the table too, right?
Right.
And print it out on 8.5 by 11. All they need is a copy. Okay, and then that's all your documents together. Staple them together. Send them registered mail, restricted delivery to the judge privately. That's why it's restricted delivery. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then you send a copy to the county executor / mayor, whoever's at the top of the county. You send a copy to risk management. Find out who does the risk management for the county. And this is where you can call the county office and just play stupid. Say, hey, I'm looking at doing a contract, and I think I need to send a copy of the contract to risk management to get their advice on whether or not this government contract is feasible. Can you direct me on who I need to contact or who does risk management so I know who to contact? And usually when you play stupid like that, these secretaries, oh yeah, here, contact such and such at such and such. They'll be glad to give you that information. Okay, so now you've got risk management. Now you've got a copy for the mayor. Then you go look up the lieutenant general at the Army Corps of Engineers, and you send him a copy, and you send it everyone registered mail and restrict, because a gentleman is giving them notice. Look, there is and you attach a copy of the bond to each one also. Almost forgot that. So you're letting them know, look, there's a bond, here's the case, I'm giving you permission to release the funds and make this thing go away.
Okay. So let me try to repeat that back because I was making notes. You say take the first 5 documents, the 24, the 25, the 25A, the 30, and the 31.
It's actually no, the 24, 25, 25A, and 28. That's 4. Then you got the optional 90 and 91. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you attach the cover sheet to the complaint. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You attach the cover sheet because the cover sheet has the caption and the account number, which is your docket number, right?
Yep.
So you attach that to the back of those 6 documents. You attach a color photo of your birth certificate.
Yep.
Okay. And you attach a copy of your 1-page exemption bond. So altogether, you've got 9 pieces of paper for one set of the GSA bonds.
Yep, I have that.
Okay.
And then you said, oh, go ahead. I'll let you repeat.
You mail the original to the judge, registered mail restricted, because it's a private communication. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Registered mail is the most secured way to send anything of value. Plus, it protects chain of custody. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you send it to the judge privately. And then you send a copy, not the originals, of all 9 pages to whoever the highest authority is in your county. In New York, they call it a county executor. In
I've,
some counties, they call it a mayor. So I don't know what they call it in Pennsylvania where you're at.
commissioners, I think.
Okay, if the county commissioner is the highest official, then that's who you send it to. Then you call the county office or the seat, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you do not know, if you can, now you might be able to research and find out. Type in the county name and risk management office. See what comes up. And then if it happens to come up, who does the risk management for your county? Call them up and confirm it, and do like I did. Say, yes, I'm in the process of writing a contract. Say, ma'am, and is this the office that does the risk management for this county? Because I need to know who I need to send a copy of the contract so it can be reviewed, and maybe even risk management can give me some advice, right? And if they say, yes, we are the ones that do that, okay, who's the agent? And they'll give you the agent's name. You've got the address, and you got the phone number. And then, so you mail that directly to the agent, registered mail, restricted delivery. So now you've got the highest executive office in the county. You've got the risk management, and then you send a copy to the Lieutenant General at the Army Corps of Engineers.
Of my state or just Army Corps of Engineers, period?
Army Corps of Engineers, period. There's only one Army Corps of Engineers. There's only one Lieutenant General that runs the Army Corps of Engineers.
Okay.
The highest position with the Army Corps of Engineers is the Lieutenant General.
See, I went and I tried to call in the provost marshal and filled out documents too, and that didn't work.
It's because it's the wrong process.
Okay.
Look, the reason you go to the Army Corps of Engineers is who is the go-between between the citizens and the government ever since Lincoln? The Army. We've been under martial law since Lincoln. So what happened? They developed the Army Corps of Engineers. Who do they call when it's a natural disaster to come into the area? The Army Corps of Engineers. They are the go-between between the federal government and the citizens. I got a friend of mine that is retired from the Army Corps of Engineers.
Now, is that, I just send it to those 4 places? I don't have to send it to the DTCC?
No, the GSA bonds themselves. You're not, the only time you are going to send it to the DTCC is if you are claiming the security and you're not. You're freeing up. See, they're going to use your credit by your permission or by force. It's your choice. So what are you doing? You're giving them permission to use your credit.
Now, I don't fill in dollar amounts, correct?
Correct. Because you don't know the dollar amount, and they sure ain't going to tell you.
Nope, they won't. And I used my strawman address on the GSA bonds. I used my county recorder of my birth certificate. Is that
Actually, the address of the straw man is the courthouse.
where my birth certificate was registered?
No. Where's the case at?
It's at my county court.
That's right. And what is the name of the straw man on that court case? On the front page. Who's holding the account? The courthouse. So where's the address of that legal fiction? The courthouse.
Okay.
See what I'm saying now?
All I have to do is change the address. I have everything else. Now, should I use...
put down, so you got to know that you I don't know your actual name. So John Michael Doe. Okay. That goes into the principal, and the surety is the John M. Doe that's listed on the docket number.
Mm-hmm. I have that right.
Okay.
Of Stroman. Now, would I want to use the 200 series and the 1400 series as well?
What is that?
The GSA bonds, the SF 214, 215.
What are they?
I only know the numbers. I forget what they're called, but they're basically all bid bond, performance bond, and replevin bonds. There's just
I don't
three.
know what those. I don't even know those numbers. I didn't use those.
Okay.
I'll tell you, when I did mine last August, I've been fighting New York family court. They filed fraudulent neglect petitions against me and my wife and split my family up. That was 6 years, 9 months ago. That got me into studying this stuff. Last August, I filed the GSA bonds. Like I said, I mailed them to those locations. Did I ever get a response from the Lieutenant General or from the county executive or from risk management? Hell no. Didn't even get a response from the judge privately about the GSA bonds. They ran with them bastards. Okay. Now, I filed the private one-page exemption bond for every number into the court, 5 copy to the tender, and a letter rogatory to the public pretender, directing him how to handle things in the private. When they received my packet, when everybody received it, this is when things got weird. They immediately continued the case for 90 days. DSS quit coming around my wife for 2 months. My attorney filed papers to be removed from the case. He got removed in November. They started begging my wife, if you'll just file for custody, if the court grants it, we'll go away. And when the custody hearing come up, it was a default judgment. And they dismissed the warrant against me and dismissed my case completely. Why? They made it look good on paper. They issued the default order of custody and told my wife, now when you get your copy of the order, you have to file it, register it in Pennsylvania at the courthouse. She gets her copy. We call the clerk at the court in Pennsylvania. And they flat out told us, that order, we can't enforce it. Why not? All you got's the order, no case filed? Yep. So then I told her a little bit briefly as to what was going on, and she said, I believe you. You're not the only person in all my years working here that New York's done this to, and it's always the same story. And she said, it's going to cost you $360 to file it. You'll get a case number. But she said, I'll tell you now, Pennsylvania's never going to enforce it because we don't know what the case is about. To us, it's an invalid order. So what they do when you do the GSA bonds, if they absolutely hint at thinking you know what you're doing, even part way, they're going to try to make this thing go away. If they don't believe at all that you know anything, they're just going to make it harder on you.
Well, I've been dying to use those GSA bonds because it took me 2 weeks to learn them.
It's not, hey, it's worth a shot.
Yeah, I even got my embosser made, and I used the notary seals, and I just felt like I was going to commit some type of fraud or whatever by not knowing how to properly file these bonds.
Now somebody said make sure you scan and take a photo of everything you are doing for your records, and you can come back and give us all a visual process along with the postal process and everything. I've got those documents on what I did. But I just got to redact my information, and I've been so busy working on this West Virginia case that I got court May 16th, so it may be after that before I can redact my copies of those documents, and then I can show everybody exactly how I filled them out, what I did, and everything else. But she's right, or he's right. You want records of everything. You want copies for your records. Now, the postal process is it's simple. Registered mail. Registered mail. I was at. Hey, y'all saw my picture I posted. I got a whole roll of registered mail stickers. Okay, which I know that does y'all no good. But registered mail, what they divulged to me at the post office is anything of value goes registered mail. One, it's the most secure way to send anything. Two, it's chain of custody. Okay. The lady at the post office said they have people that send diamonds through the mail using registered mail because of how secure it is. That little first class mail stuff, how that stuff gets tore up. I mean, you never know what's going to happen.
Al, did you hear anything about the registered mail stickers, the red stickers, being no longer used by the post office, and that all registered mail is going to be done electronically now?
You saw when I posted that picture, right?
Not sure.
What, Marie, was it last week? I mean,
I don't know.
I think it might have been last week. No, and if it wasn't last week, it was the week before. So, honestly, if something changed, it didn't change since. It didn't change before I did mine. They still did it electronically when you walk into the post office to give them your registered mail stuff. They still enter everything in because the registered mail number is a contract.
But like, for doing our processes and stuff, we get the registered mail sticker, so we have that number in advance. So we can put it on all of our paperwork. I don't know how that's going to work if they do away with the stickers.
Can't do away with them. There's too damn many. What are they going to do? Trash all the ones they've got printed off? When I got that sticker, I made friends with the big guy that's been working at that office for close to 20 years. And me and him was talking outside in the vestibule. I said, hey, any way you can hook me up with some registered mail stickers? He said, yeah, I can do that. So when we got almost done with everything, I said, hey, how many can I take? He said, you can have the whole roll. I've got plenty.
Yeah, I have a bunch, but not that many.
I heard a rumor you can order them direct and get a whole roll yourself too.
You can. Now the whole thing on file them electronically. Yes, they put everything in the system. They're not going to have the universal right. You got to get a copy of the number because the registered mail number represents a contract with the post office. What are they going to do? Print you out a whole new number every single time? Either way, you still get a contract number. If you choose to use the sticker, they'll scan the sticker. It's not a big deal. Yeah, so Stillwater said, yeah, I think I saw that photo.
I saw, are you talking about the photo of your roll of stickers?
Yeah, a roll of registered mail stickers.
Yeah, I saw that.
Registered mail receipt. So
Yes,
I just got
that.
what, 2 weeks ago?
Right.
So I don't know. There's a lot of key things. Look, in this movement is getting super popular. People across, look, I got a state delegate in Minnesota. She's wanting me to come there and teach families how to pull their kids out of the system and protect their kids. She found out about the human capital performance bonds. She didn't even know about the bankruptcy and the bonds of the birth certificate and Social Security. I sat down on a weekend for 4 hours and showed her everything. Blew her mind. Now she knows what they're doing, and she's a Christian woman. She hates them. She's exposing Republicans and Democrats alike, and they can't stand her. They're scared of her, right? Because they don't know how she's getting her information, right? So this system, I'm starting to question certain things I hear. Like when you said they're going to quit using it, I don't see them quitting using things. I see that as potentially disinfo to make us shy away from it. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, they do that with a lot of this stuff, don't they?
There are people out there that know this stuff up one side and down the other. And I'm not going to say anybody in this group is like this. I'm not pointing fingers because I have no firsthand knowledge of this. But there are people that will join groups that will know the stuff. They've done their homework, but they will say certain things that don't add up. And me, if you say something to me that doesn't add up, I'm going to tell you now, you got to show me. I'm not from Minnesota, but I might as well be. I mean, Missouri. I'm from the show me state.
Right, Missouri.
Yeah. So when the one guy the other day said that the authentication process has been changed, it's no longer valid, I put on there, show me. I'm still waiting. I have nothing against the guy. The guy's super smart. And a couple days later, one of the people in the group sent me a message, did you ever get the information? I said, no. I said, if you're going to say it's no longer effective and no longer valid, you need to show me where it changed with documentation. Because I do know the system will change the rules, but there's always a paper trail to show where the change is at. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Understood.
I mean, they put out, look, 1913, they passed the Federal Reserve Act. That put the bankers in control. What they do, they pass an act. There's a paper trail. Every time there's been a change in the system, there's always been a new banking regulation or a banking act passed. There's been certain key acts passed, like Social Security amendments. And you got to know where to look and know what you're looking for to find where the amendment's at. But if they change something, look, used to back in the 90s, people were using the routing number for the Federal Reserve and their social to pay bills, right? Well, what did Congress do? They orchestrated another financial thing. We need to do another banking bill. So what do? They changed the system, made it to where you can't use those routing numbers. So what did people do? They started using pass-throughs. Now they're trying to change that. Now you can't use pass-throughs. So what do you do as a secured party? You create your own private account number. Do you really think that? No. Why? You have to make your own contracts. Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution says, Congress shall pass no law that interferes with the obligation of a contract. They're never going to change that.
I was told that Sandy's ready to talk about the address change.
Oh, yeah, that's a good subject. And I actually have not done that, but I think Eon was right when I found that.
Hey,
So what's Sandy want?
Sandy, can you unmute?
Yeah, I'm unmuted.
You have some knowledge to share with us or questions?
Well, actually, this is Sean Haggerty's process,
Uh-huh.
and I just did it, so I have it done, so I can tell you what I did.
Great.
He said, you know, you get one of those change of address kits with the little form you fill out. And in section 1, you mark, of course, that it's a business. In part 2, you mark, of course, that it's not a temporary change. In part 3, where it says start date, that is the date that your COLB was recorded.
Created.
That's right.
So,
yeah, it's the recorded date, not
yeah,
your
so
birth
on
date.
mine you have the birth date, and then at the bottom you have filed date. So the filed date would be when it was started.
That's correct, because that's when it
Okay.
was recorded.
Now,
And
the
then
business name, would that be the certificate number?
the business name that's on line 6 of that form is the all cap name. And
Where do
if
you
you're,
put the certificate number?
we didn't put that on there. He didn't say anything about that on this form. And
Well, the
on,
reason why I asked that is this: if you go to Treasury Direct, just do a Google search to look up Treasury Direct paper bonds, and from what was shown to me, type in the docket number in there, it pulls up the docket number. If you or on the front, it's supposed to say. So that right there, for you to do the change of address strictly on the entity name, that doesn't necessarily control the security, does it? Because the security number is somewhere else. You see what I'm saying?
yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't know where you would put that on the
And see,
form.
because now what you're saying about the birth certificate, okay, that makes sense. But I know when I was watching the videos that Eon put out, it wasn't just done for birth certificate. It was done for any security. That would be your vehicle. So you would put, it almost appeared that you would put the VIN number in on the name of the entity, and then do the change of address. You would do the social with a change of address. You would do a bunch of things but you wouldn't always put the strawman name. You would put, sometimes it would just be the identifying number.
Since I'm screen sharing, Sandy, would it help if I pull up the form and you can just tell us
Yeah,
what to do?
there it is. That's great. Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So on that line 1 is, of course, you mark that it's a business.
Okay.
And then on 2, you say, no, it's temporary. This is not temporary. And then on 3, that's where that start date, that's where you put the date that your COLB was recorded or registered. And then Sean said, use number 6, you just put your all cap. Now, if you're female, you would put your maiden name because that's the name on your birth certificate.
So basically, wait a minute. That just brought a thought. Are you familiar with Minnesota Rule 220?
Yeah.
Now, so you understand what it says. The 3 names that are on the certificate is what it says as one of the owners in Minnesota Rule 220.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you were claiming the certificate, but you were not per se the child, you are the mother, so that would mean you are one of the owners of said certificate. How are you going to identify which one unless you put the certificate number somewhere?
That could be. So I guess we'll have to find some place to put that. I don't know where it would be.
I don't know either. I just had that thought.
No, it's a good thought.
Yeah, I'm assuming you're a mother. You have children.
Oh, yeah.
So if you were claiming your children's birth certificate, their number's different than yours, even though your name is on theirs too. So how are they going to identify which one?
Well,
So
my
that's
name.
something we need to research.
Yep. Now on line 7, that he said is where you would put You should do 2 of these. One of them for the hospital or wherever you were born, and then one for vital statistics. So,
Yeah.
like, for me, I had to do some research because the place I was actually born isn't there anymore. So we had to find the address from before, and you put that address in there. And then
Now,
on line 8,
mhm.
you put the new address where you want it to come to, which would be your new straw man's name. Which brings up another thing that I just spent an hour Wednesday with not our local post office, but the big town from 50 miles from us.
Yeah.
Because there is an issue with using suite. And I was told, and I've had 2 other people tell me, their post offices have told them that if they put suite, that their mail is going to be returned. So I went to the big post office 50 miles away and asked what's going on here, because we're all trying to use the word suite. And I also did some research on this. And in the word suite was used by the Postal Service until 1999. And there were so many complaints about it because they stopped using it and said people couldn't use it anymore. So there were so many complaints that in 2000, they said, okay, because of the complaints, you may use on this address, you may use the post office street address, number sign, and your box number there. However, that is only for premium post offices. If your post office is not a premium post office, you have to put P.O. box number, whatever.
Oh, okay.
I was told
Okay, I
something
see what you're talking
similar
about.
too.
Well, the reason why what I was gonna ask is, say, like my dad's office. Okay, it is Suite F because it's a small office building, and there's A, B, C, D, E,
Well, it's
and F
okay if it's a genuine suite. You just can't call your post office box a suite.
Ah, there, now I understand.
Yeah, I tried doing that too because I have a business and I didn't want to look like I was out of the PO box, so I would use suite, and I never got any of my mail. And I asked the postmaster about that because we were drinking buddies, and he said, yeah, that if you put anything that's addressed to the street address, he goes, it goes straight to me, and if it's not mine, I send it back. So
Yeah.
So you would use the street address for the post office, and then put number blah blah blah.
And that would be your P.O. box number in place of using P.O. box.
If you have a premium post office. Now, if you do not have a premium post office, which I do not, I can't do that. I have to put P.O. box number, whatever.
I never heard of a premium post office.
I
That's
had not
something
either.
new.
I thought a post office was a post office was a post office. And
Well, we know that ain't true because you got the USPS and then you got the United States Post Office. So yeah, we know that's not true.
So that's why I couldn't get a straight answer from my post office. So I said, okay, fine. So I went 50 miles to the big town, and I spent an hour in there with the gal, and she brought me up all the legal stats and all the regs and all of it. And I said, okay, that goes along with what I researched on the word suite. I said, but what about in 2000 when they changed it and said we could use the post office street address, number sign in our box? And she said that only applies if you have a premium post office. She said, if you want to get your mail at this post office, we'll accept that. But she said, at your post office, no, you cannot do that.
Pull up, do me a favor, open up a new tab and pull up Article 1, Section 10. Stillwater.
You cut out a little bit. All I heard was Stillwater.
He says Article 1, Section 10. Oh, you got that.
Stillwater something.
He's saying in the chat, he's telling him about it. You don't need to type that part in.
Yeah, remove that.
Did we lose him?
We're not hearing you, Ali B. Not yet.
Well, we're waiting for Ali B to come back.
Saw the message.
You do
It's
two.
called the contract clause.
Okay. The reason you do two of these address changes is you do one for the hospital where you were born and one for vital statistics, and they're done the same.
You really
And then, of course, signature.
pay attention. Yeah, a single word is a
Sandy, did we finish filling out this form that I have up? Because I'll save it for group files if Marie wants it.
Okay, the only thing additional is on line 8. You do one for, line 7. You do one for the hospital where you were born, and then you do one for vital statistics, and you already have that up there. So, and
Sandy
then of
said
course you print and sign your name and today's date.
That's the vital statistics in the state you were born?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. And
Do I have this?
if I use the FedEx PO box, it has nothing to do with the United States Post Office. I can use tweet for that, correct?
Yeah, if it's a private concern, then yeah.
That's what
post office.
That's what my teacher told me before. You shouldn't use a U.S. Post Office. You need a private post office box.
But a lot of us don't have that available. Like I don't have that available in my town, and there's 2 gals in Washington State that live in little podunk towns. They don't have that available either. So we have to use P.O. Box.
I got you. Okay.
That was really weird. I started to talk about Article 1, Section 10, and I got kicked out. I was like,
we lost you.
World? I don't know what happened. I had signal. I had full signal. So it's like, that's weird. It's like when I mentioned Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution and started to explain it, I guess Zoom didn't like me no more.
I have it up for you.
Okay, now if you look at every word in it, I mean, it talks about treaties. It talks about everything it's talking about. That is a type of contract. And it says Congress shall not pass a law that interferes with the right to contract. This is called the contract clause. Not the right to contract. It says interferes with the obligation of contract. That's why I was saying there are some things people say has changed. I don't see it as changed. If it has, somebody needs to show me where it's changed, because they can't pass a law that interferes with the obligation of contract. And anyway, as a private man and woman, you're allowed to do private contracts. Just don't do anything that that's mingling in the public.
Yeah, this is Stillwater. I had a question.
Yeah.
I put a note a little bit above that. Do you play the $21 stamp game when you're doing those USA bonds and sending those registered mail?
I was going to ask the same thing.
No, I didn't.
Okay. The reason why I asked that,
I used 2-cent stamps, and I put a 2-cent stamp on the back, signed on the back, and that's weird. It says I left the group, and I'm still here.
TMI,
See, I
TMI.
told you it don't like me.
Yeah.
No, when I went into the post office and I learned about the importance of stamps, I walk in there when I need to and I said, I want every 2-cent stamp you got. Because to me, a stamp is a stamp. I don't really see the importance on whether or not it's $1 or 2 cents. The symbolism is still the same.
Yeah. I did download the Stamp Act and I began to read that. It's some really good information in it, but it's still a mind boggle, you know.
Well, under the Republic, what was the highest price stamp? The highest price stamp was a 2-cent stamp.
Yeah, and that's still the same today.
For mail, yeah. So everything else is for the Postal Service. Okay. I mean, you go back and you go to Google and look up bonds or look up securities. You will find them with stamps on it. There's not always a $1 stamp on it. Sometimes there's a 2-cent stamp on it, and they sign across it. Shoot, Lincoln did that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that definitely saves a lot of money. I've always been taught to use $21, anything we send to the government or local state, because that shows private side, but I think 2 cents better shows the private side.
I think you got to know the principles. See, principles in law are few and never changing. Methods are many and always changing.
Right.
Principles we call maxims today. Methods we call procedures, right?
Right.
So if you know the principles, does it matter if you use a 2-cent or a 50-cent stamp? You know what the principles are. You know what it is. If you get pulled up into a court because of it, you should know how to defend it. That's where your principles come in. Is that a negotiable instrument? Do you have a security interest? Is that what that is? The judge has to take your understanding of what the law is. That's the reason they force an attorney on you, because then your understanding goes out the window.
I get you.
The only other thing I'll tell you on this form that Sean said was be sure to take a photocopy of it and get them to round stamp your photocopy, because they will not give you a receipt for it.
Go ahead and tell that again to me, Sandy, so I can type it in.
Take a photocopy of your form.
Yeah.
And take it in with you when you give this to the post office, and have them round stamp it as your receipt.
Oh, okay. Just like you do on any other thing when you pay for something.
Yeah, because they don't have any receipts for these, so you basically make it up your own.
Yeah. Now, yeah, you definitely want to keep records of everything. That's for sure. I'm going to tell you something I'm looking at, and that's becoming a private post office. There's an actual freaking form you can fill out to become your own post office.
Ooh, I want to do that.
And get the ability to use pre-canceled stamps. Now, what's the purpose of the canceled stamp? That's showing you're the postmaster. You have that authority, right? There's a lot of things about a canceled stamp what that means. And from everything I've been looking, I wish I could find it quickly. I do. But there was a thing in the U.S. code where it talked about securities of some or U.S. obligations. Stamps were in that list. And if they're not canceling stamps at the post office, those stamps are securities, no different than a check, no different than a birth certificate, no different than a promissory note. It's all securities, right? So guess who owns it? The United States. It's a U.S. obligation. Rob Ryder's the one that was talking about it on filling out the form, and I got to go back and watch that video again. And I looked up the form, and I was like, "Holy crap!"
Does 39 U.S. Code 601 or 414 sound familiar about stamps?
I don't know. I'd have to see it.
I have it on the screen.
Yeah, but I'd have to see it.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to click on one of them?
You can. Scroll down and see if it gives you a list of items. If it doesn't give you the list of items, that's not it.
No.
You may also give it a Google Stamp Act of, I forget the year, but it seemed like it's in Arabic and English. So I don't, you know, the PDF. I can't remember the year.
I really think it was in U.S. Code talking about United States obligations. And in that, I think that's what the code was talking about. And then it give you a list of what those obligations were. And I found it interesting. Stamps was listed.
Everybody can see I'm not the greatest typer.
You ain't hurting my feelings none.
Obligations or securities of the United States.
What I've tried to explain in the past is that it needs to be in black ink. It needs to be your delivering post office's zip code, and it needs to include the date. And this is for the stamp on your document that is going to be the obligation of the United States. If you want to use a different stamp where you're going to sign, then you can use some other color of ink, but for this obligation of the United States, you use black ink.
I think the only time you should use blue ink is to show it's your wedding signature.
I agree. That's what I learned.
And put a stamp under it because that helps to show that it is original.
Yeah, that's right.
And I like the Apple stamps because they have a black background and it's easier to see your ink.
Well, not if it's blue. Because I will tell you, those 2-cent stamps, that was the reason why they went to the dark background, because of when they were a light background, you could very easily see the signature, right? So rumor is they changed it on the 2-cent stamp to a dark background. So if you don't sign completely across it and continuously, and it ends partway on it, they can say, well, I don't see that you signed on that stamp.
Use gold ink.
Well, that's why I'm saying use the Apple stamps. They're white background, and then the apple is a light yellow and red.
Hey, I like when it comes to postage, by the way, speaking of stamps, I really like what my buddy did, Justin Nolan. He said he hasn't paid for postage of any kind in over 2 years. He's got that
That's
little...
cute.
Yeah, he's got that little printout thing he sticks on the envelope. UCC, what is it? 12 USC 411, prepaid postage, UPU code, something. I've got it saved somewhere.
I'll read it for you because that's what I use.
Yeah.
I have
haven't tried that yet.
First line is first class U.S. mail. Second line is statutory non-domestic fully prepaid. Third line is 12 statutes at large, comma, chapter 71, comma, section 23. And then fourth line is federal offense to collect additional postage. Fifth line is 18 USC 1726 in parentheses, or not parentheses, in quotes, without the United States.
Yeah. And I mean, I've only known of 2 people that's actually doing that, and they don't pay for postage. I have not actually tried it yet.
Sean
I've-
is doing that. Sean Haggerty.
I've had some get returned, but just about every time I do it myself, it gets mailed, no problem.
That's freaking awesome. I love it.
I've done probably 20 letters, certified now, so I haven't had any problem with it.
That's
Yeah.
freaking awesome.
Sean says he's even doing registered mail that way, and I don't know yet how my post office is going to handle that, but I can always take it to the premium post office.
I'll pull up my label program since I'm screen sharing. You guys can see the label yourself.
I need to figure out where I can get a photo. I've actually got a picture of my family crest, and I need to start taking advantage of that family crest.
Can everybody see what I have up?
I see the 18 USC 472.
I'm at full screen. I don't know if you guys can see everything.
Well, if you're I know if you're on a mobile device like me, you can actually do your zoom to the video and you can zoom in.
Here, my screen sharing paused, so hold on a second.
There you go.
Oh, move.
It changed.
Okay, so that's the label I use.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Did you get that from Marianne Vandergrift?
Yeah, actually,
Thank you, Marianne.
on my travel back, I stopped and I spent the night at her house, and we had a study buddy session.
What?
Hey.
This trip?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed out. Marianne stole you from me.
You need to send me a message. You need to send me a message on Facebook Messenger, by the way. Next time I'm in Harrisburg, I'll hit you up. We'll if I'm up there on a weekend or something, I got time. We'll hook up. I'll share information with you.
I'd love to do that, but I'm in the process of moving to Chicago.
You crazier than I thought you were.
Yeah,
I actually go out that way a lot. Indiana, Rushville, Indiana is where the home office for my company's at.
well, I really promised to meet Marie on my trip back. I just ran out of time and money. I drove. Crazy me.
Yeah, Maria needs to remind me where she's at, because if I'm ever through there, I need to stop by and say hey.
Oh my God.
Are you in Indianapolis, Marie?
Yes.
St. Elmo's,
What I
great
was thinking.
steakhouse.
Shoot, I need to go over there on 465 and say, Marie.
You have a following, Marie.
I know.
Oh, I love Marie. We've been friends for a long time.
All right, so what's next on our agenda?
Whatever people have questions about. If I don't have an answer, somebody might.
If I may, go back to the name change form or
Yeah, sure.
address change.
Uh-huh.
As far as our signatures are concerned, do we just do a straight up signature, or do we make it a non-open endorsement?
Non-UCC?
Right. Do you want to have an open endorsed signature or a closed endorsed? Or does it matter?
I just printed last comma first last comma first comma middle, and then signed it that way, and then underneath I put UCC 1
308.
308 without prejudice recourse.
Okay.
Across
Okay.
down here.
What's the difference? What's the difference between a closed endorsement and an open endorsement? Because the only endorsement I know that U.S. Code says how things are to be endorsed, pay to the order of, put the person, and you put who it's going to, and this, that, and the other.
Well, my only question, you know, in this type of thing that we're all trying to, I always say it's a daily learning. We know that certain things change over time. They change it so this they can spite us. But we have to wear certain hats at different times.
Yes.
Not all the time you're going to, you know, act as the agent. And sometimes you're going to act as the actual debtor.
Yes.
And that was the purpose of that question, because I think in this case you're acting as the agent. So,
well, I've just never heard of the term an open endorsement or closed endorsement. That's why I'm like, okay, what is that?
I guess here's an example. Say you had to get rushed to the emergency room, and I'm just using myself as an example, and you had heart complications, stress, and you end up say, yes, I'll go ahead and stay overnight. Now, mind you, in about 6 months or whatever it is, you're going to get a bill for $37,000. So when you're all hooked up and you're under drug seizure, they're going to send out the most beautiful girl if you're a guy, and I guess the most hot dude if you're a woman. And they're going to ask you how much money you make. We know if you're in a certain hat, you don't make any money because people, men and women, can't make money. Only the entity can.
Yeah, there is no money. So.
Right. And sometimes when you're drugged up, you forget. I forgot.
Yeah.
So I'm acting as a debtor, not purposely, but that's what happened.
Hey, speaking of a hospital, I heard this. I have no way to verify the authenticity of it, but supposedly I was talking to someone, and I take that as hearsay because I don't have firsthand knowledge. But he couldn't pay the hospital bill. He didn't have insurance. So what he did is he got in touch with the people higher up at the top because there's a board of directors. And he said, I want to bond this procedure. And he handed them his birth certificate.
I did the same thing over the phone.
Yeah, so you did that? Are you the one that said that? I heard that. I'm like, holy shit. They put him in a private room. They put him in a private room, had the best freaking care. Everything was paid for.
That wasn't me. Like I said, I was under duress. I was like, my chest was about ready to bust. So that wasn't me at that time. Now, the hint that I got when they did call me, the gentleman, it was a gentleman at the time. It was all 000s on the phone. I'm like, what the heck is this?
Oh, yeah.
So I ended up answering after like 10 rings. And I said, well, the VA was going to take care of it. Then he goes and says, so they're going to use your birth certificate to take care of that? I said, well, likely, but you guys can do it too. So they went ahead and sent me the bill. He hung up on me at that point. But but he ended up sending me the bill. Then it went into collections. But the key thing is, if you want to do what was just suggested by you and what I did, never pay. Because the minute you start paying that in a check cash format, that's a new contract. You're stuck. That's when
actually
legally.
Actually, no. I've got a screenshot of some cases, and in the cases they say, if I'm reading them right, I have not verified the authenticity of the quotes, but Federal Reserve notes, and this applies to a check or anything else, is actually not an actual payment unless it is stipulated in a contract.
I think I get what you're saying.
Now I'm going to pull over here if there's any parking, and I'll pull the picture up and read it to you.
While we wait, can I ask Sandy a question before I finish up this form? Just so people don't think in box 9, it's all lowercase on this form. Did you sign it proper case, Sandy?
Upper, lower?
Yeah, okay. I'll fix that.
That's a good question. I didn't mean to go off. So it's all reference to the signature here.
No, we're not a one subject
Does that look better, Sandy?
Yeah, full middle name, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think they're pinging your call there, buddy. They're definitely pinging his call.
I know them actually. There we go. Let's see. Here it is. It's Blashier Manufacturing Company versus Harrell. It says that notes, and somebody I think put, either the case said it or somebody wrote this in because they put Federal Reserve in parentheses. But it says that Federal Reserve notes do not operate as payment in the absence of an agreement that they shall constitute payment. And if you know the monetary system, to demand payment in any certain form is goes against public policy.
That's right. That's syntax right there. I think that's on the U.S. UCC too. I think that statute there. Okay. It's all knowledge, man, because it's almost as if you learn something 1 year and 3 years go by and you can use it, but you forget it. And nothing kind of sticks because everything is changing on a, I would say, quarterly basis, even though it's daily. Because a lot of the stuff we've studied, we haven't quite yet had to use. But I can only speak for oneself here.
Well, I mean, we constantly learn every day. We might forget one day what we learned 3 years ago, and then somebody will remind you, and you'll be like, oh crap, yeah, I remember that. Is that you, David?
Yeah, I just sent you a request.
No, I just confirmed it.
I didn't know you're friends with Matt Quintero, too.
My friends list groweth.
If I may, going back to the open and close endorsement, even though PJ has really, I don't think it was him in particular, but I think that's one of the things that he emphasized. It's always put in all rights reserved, at least at the top, or some sort of a UCC 1-308 at the bottom of the signature. So this way they can't come back in and start to monetize that signature, because if a lot of the things that we do, such as contracts, mortgages, car loans, school loans, all that, they do monetize it. We have the ability to stop that monetization if we do a closed endorsement. And that's one of the key elements. When you are in the hospital, you can do a closed endorsement so they don't take that signature that you give while you're under duress or some sort of medication, and they take that and monetize it. It's all securities.
Well, I will also say that ARR is powerful. A buddy of mine, he's a truck driver. I love his story. He went to go, because he's a truck driver, he don't want to be fighting with the cops in every jurisdiction. So he went to get his motorcycle endorsement, right? Because he actually attached the motorcycle to the front of the trailer. So that way, whenever he's stuck somewhere for the weekend, he don't have to be stuck. He can go to town. So he drives his motorcycle to the DMV. And the cop says, well, since you've passed the test, do you want to go take your road test? He said, well, sure. Well, is your motorcycle here? Yes, it's right outside. Well, how did you get it here? And by this time, there's a state trooper standing up, this Amazon-looking lady, ready to write him a ticket. He says, I exercised my constitutional right to travel. She said, you know this stuff, don't you? Yes, ma'am, I do. And he's the same friend I told you that was with the Army Corps of Engineers. And he says, so got everything done, went to sign for his license, and he put his name and he signed ARR. And he got through the contract, the paper part, and the electronic part. And when the electronic part comes through, she says, "Wait a minute, what is that?" "Oh, it's something my attorney told me to sign." Go look at the contract; it's all signed that way.
That
She
is
said,
nice.
"She
I
said,
heard that on the urlaw.org videos.
yeah."
TJ, I heard him say that. Something my attorney told me to say, and then if they argue, you say, "Are you giving me legal advice?" And then they leave you alone.
Yep. That's what the IRS is notorious about. We cannot give you legal advice, but you can get assistance from a third-party trainee. They would not tell you anything. So if anyone out there has an IRS rep, buddy, we need that information.
Hey, I am trying my. Speaking of that, my dad does install work, right? My dad has not filed taxes since 1994.
How and how? I haven't done it since 16. I'm scared to death.
Oh shoot, I haven't filed. This makes 4 years.
Hmm.
And so Dad, the IRS constantly mess with him, but they can never get him. He knows how to do his exercise his Fifth Amendment rights, right? Properly. So they can't never get him. And he goes to a job one day, and there's this guy, old man there. Come to find out, the guy says, he said, "So what do you do for a living?" He says, "Oh, I'm a CID officer. I work for the IRS."
Wow.
"Oh." He says, "Well, I'm one of those that don't file." And he said, "Oh, how do you do that?" So Dad sat down with a glass of tea with him on the porch for about 30 minutes and told him the whole story. And the guy, when it was done, the guy looked at my dad and said, "Floyd, you have explained more to me today than all my years working for the IRS, and it now makes sense." He said, "Because I've asked the higher-ups questions. They've always answered my questions, but they've never answered them adequately."
Right. That's
Yeah.
where you get the secret service.
And Dad, I said, "Dad, you got to set me up sometime with this CID officer," because he's also a law professor. I said, "You've got to see if you can get him to agree to sit down with me one weekend, because I want to sit down and pick his brain over these birth certificates and everything and see what he says."
Right. Now, would it be wise of you to sit down with your pops again to find out what he's doing? You know what I mean?
I know, right? Oh, I'll see my dad this weekend. I see my dad all the time. Dad's appointed me through the Power of Attorney Act as his counsel.
Wow. You may not be able to share that over the airways. You might have to do a PDF or something.
Well, this is a private group.
You mentioned the Power of Attorney Act, and I was tempted to appoint the power of attorney to the judge or the prosecutor in my case.
The judge is not allowed to practice law from the bench. You're going to have a hard time doing that.
Okay.
But look, Sean Haggerty, he did a limited power of attorney appointing. The IRS was coming after him saying, "Hey, we need this information." So what did he do? He sent them a limited power of attorney. He said, "Okay, you want that information? You now have the authority to give it." He never heard nothing else from him.
I know we touched on that earlier. I'm just making more notes.
Notes are good.
I have stacks of them. Anything anybody wants me to look up while I'm screen sharing?
I think Monday I'm going to call the Secretary of State's office and ask them a bunch of what the fuck questions.
Has anybody filed an injunction?
For what?
And just the I guess, a blanket injunction to get on the supposed do not detain list if there is or is not one?
Look, Article 1, Section 10. You cannot interfere with the obligation of contract. Do you not have the ability to do your own contracts with the proper officials in your county and notify them that you are of what your rights are, and here's a fee schedule?
Did you file a fee schedule with the county recorder?
No, I haven't done that yet. No. See, my problem is I don't have no help, and I've only got one day a week off when I'm not actually driving to work on things. So it makes it very difficult for me to get things done, even though I know what I need to do.
Are you an over-the-road trucker?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I'm in Chicago working in that industry.
Yep. So look, tomorrow's Saturday. I'm going to be driving. I've got to get to my pickup my delivery no later than 11, right? And then I'll be done. So tomorrow I have some time to work on things, which I'm working on an article exposing a corrupt district attorney, because I have a nice little phone call in my possession showing his corruption. And then I got to get that done and sent to some different reporters. And then Sunday, I'm going to be researching for that case I'm working on the 16th.
You know, something interesting, I only because of I'm working in the trucking industries, I teach trucking owners or truck business owners to build business credit in their EIN and not their SSN. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I'm in this whole Dun & Bradstreet business credit profile lookup, and I started to look up the DUNS and also all business credit profiles for my local court. Mm-hmm. I found about 10 different addresses for them. And 10 different entities, business entities, and all kinds of stuff. And it's just amazing to see the level of corruption that's there.
Well, here's what they do at the courts. They'll set up a private business under a modified name of the court. Mm-hmm. Then they'll run that for a few years. And when it's done, they get rid of it and start another one.
I've seen that. They haven't shut down their businesses yet because they're still registered with the Secretary of State. And they're sneaky.
Yeah, I need to figure out how to look that up because Ulster County Family Court, I have the business records for that family court, the one I was fighting. They mm-hmm. reported $4 million in sales in 2016. The name of the legal entity for the business is Ulster County of Family Court, right?
Yep.
But you can't find that information anywhere. I don't know if I'm looking in the right spot at the Secretary of State or not, but you can't find it.
Well, have you pulled the Dun & Bradstreets?
Yeah, that's how I got that.
Okay.
That's how I found out they reported $4 million in sales in 2016.
There's a company called Credit Safe.
Yeah.
And they deal with things strictly listed with the Secretary of State. They're not like Dun & Bradstreet, because if you pay Dun & Bradstreet, they'll report anything that you want them to report.
Yeah. I actually got mine off of Westlaw because Westlaw was trying to sell me some more packages. Mm-hmm. And they said, here, we'll give you, for the next 5 days, you have all access for a total of 5 hours. So they give me all access. So I'm like a kid in a damn candy store. And so I can't look up those reports no more. They're too damn expensive.
Well, Dun & Bradstreet should be like $60 a report or $250.
Yeah. Yeah, but those cheat reports don't give you everything. If you really want a full report, it costs you like $500 plus.
Mm-hmm.
And see, Westlaw, if I could ever get the money coming in to where I could add that package to my plan, Westlaw doesn't just pull from Dun and Bradstreet, they pull from every source. You got to remember, in the secured party process, one of the things you got to do is do a copyright release from Westlaw. Westlaw's like the king when it comes to everything, and they have the copyright on all the codes. And that's why Westlaw changed their policy on the copyright release. They will not give that to you unless you're using more than 25 at any given time. And then they want to see what you're doing before they'll do it. I had that discussion with them.
Are you talking about the Thompson and Reuters Westlaw?
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
This is the first I'm hearing about it, so I'm going to pull up what services they provide.
Well, Westlaw is no different than LexisNexis, except for, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion, Westlaw is like the Cadillac of the two. And I love my Westlaw account, but it ain't cheap.
Why don't we all figure out a way to get access to one account?
Because here's the problem. When I set up the account, and it's like this everywhere. Doesn't matter if it's a firm, whatever. I pay for one attorney login and a non-attorney login. So that would be an attorney and a paralegal in a normal firm, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I give you my login, we cannot be logged in at the same time.
Yeah, it's, they probably track IP too.
Yeah, and I've got a couple of real close friends that do have my login to use it, but they know I use it, so they don't go in there very often. During the week, I told them, here, do what you got to do, because during the week I'm driving. Now, for me to add a second attorney, non-attorney account would require a $200 a month contract with someone to add that to it.
That's expensive.
I pay $350.
Oh, I pulled up the pricing, and if you're not seeing the screen.
Oh, I don't even have I'm looking at negotiating a price on adding securities law to my plan.
They're squeezing them, man. They're squeezing them.
Yeah, I've got everything in some marriage or North Carolina. I've got American Secundum. I've also got a plan called Rise of American Law, which has a lot of unpublished materials in it. And like I said, I pay $350 a month for that.
That's crazy.
Oh, I love it though.
I have to look into this to see if I can use it for what I'm doing for a job.
If you wanted to do the background check thing, you probably don't have to get the rest, and I don't know what it would cost you. But it's I know for me to add it, it's $140. I don't know if it's $140 if you don't have everything else. It might be more. But the background stuff, I'm gonna tell you what, they are detailed.
I just want to prove that this court is not a court and it's a private corporation, and I think I have enough evidence for that.
It is a private corporation, but it's not. It's listed on Dun and Bradstreet as a it's a quasi corporation. In other words, it's a nonprofit. It's a government entity. Okay. For it to be an actual corporation, it has to be registered with the Secretary of State.
Well, I did ask through Open Office Records request officer. I did ask for the government information letter, the GIS issued by the IRS, and they told me that they don't have it. The county solicitor told me that they do not have one in their possession. I mean, I think this guy is just totally stupid. I specifically asked for certain things, and I specifically asked for things that I knew that didn't exist, like their license to practice law. I know there isn't one, but I asked for it. And then I asked for their bar association numbers. So
They don't want to give you the bar numbers because you're not a bar member. Their bar numbers are their bond numbers. That's why they don't want to give you that. And I can tell you right now, I've got evidence to show people. Remember I told you about that New York case, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the former public pretender, you know, he fled the scene. He got removed from the case. So when it was all over, I called Dad. My dad said, hey, since the case is over, why don't you call him up and see if he'll, you know, talk a little off the record and explain a few things. So one day I called him up. He didn't answer. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, he calls me back. And I recorded the phone call. I said, there's a great app, by the way, called Tape a Call. It's freaking awesome. You do a group call and it records, and it's $11 a year. But I recorded the phone call, and he threw that thing at me. Now, on paper, everybody would have said, wait a minute, that's your attorney. Or it was your attorney. And what line did he, when I started asking questions, oh, I can't discuss that attorney-client privilege. And people would, when I would share that with people, they would go, wait a minute, on paper, that was your attorney. I said, no, he was not my attorney. He represented the estate, the straw man, the legal fiction. He's there doing probate on a deceased entity. He didn't do it on me.
Bingo.
I was the dummy, because in law, a dummy is one that has no interest in the matter, but is only there to help achieve a legal goal or the legal objective. That's all I was. He didn't represent me. He represented the estate.
would that also be a demur? A demurrer?
Don't know. I'd have to look into that. It's Scott. It's called Tape a Call. It works with smartphones. Once you create your account, you are assigned a phone number, and it recognizes your phone number. So, say you're going to call someone up, you call the Tape a Call app and call that number out, and then you add another call like you're doing a conference call, and it records the whole conversation. So now what I do is when I get a phone call from one of these bad actors, I'll just play stupid. I say, can you hold a second and let me get this person off the phone? And I put them on hold so they don't hear nothing. I go to my Tape a Call app, hit the record button, and it calls out to the service, merge the call, and then I record the phone call. And the app on the iPhone costs $11 a year. And you get unlimited calls, unlimited space. As soon as you hang up, a few minutes later, you'll get a notification that the phone call's processed. You can download it, save it, whatever.
Thank you for that.
So, I mean, I use this stuff to my advantage. Shoot.
Oh, Marianne joined us.
I'm here.
Is that the same Marianne I grew up watching on TV? She was hot.
I don't know about that.
This change of address form, is that the Sean Haggerty that did a couple of videos that went around, but he never did anything else?
According to Sandy, it is. I
Yeah,
believe.
it's the same one.
Yes.
Sean Haggerty, he does videos, and then he takes breaks because he's got a life. He's doing his own thing.
Yeah.
He does things here and there.
I was trying to search. I don't know if I have those on my computer or not. I was actually one of the first people to disseminate his videos, but I don't even know where they are on my computer anymore. It's like poof.
Is Sean Haggerty the guy one of the guys teaching PJ?
I don't know if he's teaching PJ, but I know he knows PJ, and I know that he's been doing this stuff for 20 years.
Sean was
He-
working as a reader for Gene Keating, and that's how Sean and PJ got hooked up.
Now, I know Gene Keating talked a lot about the 1099 OID, and I'm going to tell you what, I'm skittish about the 1099 OID, even though I think Gene Keating knows what he's talking about. I don't know how many of y'all know Carl Lentz.
I tried his
Carl
stuff.
Lentz. Okay? And me and him's talked off, behind the scenes. He said, look, that 1099 OID, stay away from that. He said, I was involved in a court case where he was representing a client, and he questioned the IRS agent on the stand, and he said that agent told him firsthand that the IRS created that process to catch people committing fraud. It is only there for that.
So when you ask the court to produce the 1099 OID in the case, is that a way for the court to commit fraud to the IRS?
I don't know. I know what Sean told me, he said the 1099 OID, what does it mean? Original issue discount, right? Who does the discount go to? You are the original issuer. You don't also get the discount. And I said, you know what? That actually makes sense. Now, what I'm contemplating doing, I'll tell you the honest truth, and it makes sense, is doing the W-4 process. And if it does what I'm thinking it might do, I'm going to probably start filing taxes.
What do you mean the W-4 process?
Okay, the straw man. That's what the social and the birth certificate represent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what are these corporations doing? They want your social. So what are they doing? They're using that. They're using your credit. Are you reporting to the IRS who the employer is that is using your credit? No. So I'm not going to tell you to do it because I haven't done it yet. But what you do is you go put the information on the W-4, put social, put all that information, and at the bottom where it says employer, you put the company name, you put their EIN, and you put the date that they started, and you put the total amount for the year that you have sent them. Supposedly, now you do that, and then you fill out a 1040-V, you send your copy of the bills, and you send a copy of their EIN. You make sure you get the proper EIN, right? For the proper company, because like AT&T, they have an EIN for many different divisions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you might have an AT&T phone, but which AT&T mobility are you using? There might be 8 different ones.
Which
right?
market? Which market?
Yes. So supposedly a guy did that with his phone bill, and he reported because he didn't have an expensive phone bill like me, and it was like $1,200 for the year. And he went to pay his bill the next month, and he had an $1,100 credit on his account.
I heard that. I heard that rumor too.
Yeah, so to me, it makes sense because we the people are supposed to be tax exempt, right? Yeah, the problem is, since we're not reporting to the IRS properly who's using our credit and how much,
They're giving it to the immigrants.
well, we end up getting stuck with the tax, right?
Right.
So now think of a bank account. Say you make $100,000 a year. Well, it's because it's easy numbers. So you get $100,000 in credits. What's the bank doing? Okay, you got this credit account, and then you have a debit account. Okay, so what the bank is actually using of your credit is $200,000. So you would put your income down as the 100. You would put the bank down as the employer. They're using 200,000 of your credit. And what happens? 100,000 from 200,000 means you get a tax return of 100,000. You get your money back.
You know, I heard that today from Brother Sharif on his call.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like something Tony King said too.
Yeah. So since if this stuff is right, what you are now doing is you are reporting who's using the credit of that account.
Right.
And now you're tax free. You're getting your money back.
That's what Trump does. That's why they can't release it. All that old stuff that they released to the public this week, the one thing they forgot to say to everybody was that was during the worst downturn in what they call real estate history. Of course, everybody lost everything.
The whole thing that I've discovered learning all this stuff, the reason why the media and Congress does all this crap about the tax returns, because look, remember, Trump said it in one of his speeches. He said, I don't know what y'all talking about. Y'all do the very same things I do.
Yep.
Because they know the American people are ignorant. I had people sharing that article where Amazon made $11.2 billion and didn't pay no taxes. And I said, and? I said, what's the problem? The problem isn't that they didn't pay taxes. The problem is, why don't you learn how they did it so you don't have to pay taxes?
Exactly.
I never get a response when I say that stuff.
They're afraid.
Scared to death. They love their slavery.
Something else came up just yesterday, and I was talking to someone who calls herself a supervisor of me, but so be it. And I said, I'm not sure if you saw this whole thing with the health insurance, how people are getting these crazy medical bills. I've experienced it. And one of the doctors who performs breast cancer for his patients, and the one key word he says, we need to fix this system. And he said this debauchatory system, whatever word he used. And he says it's all in reference to the public trust. So they're taking the public's trust and just extorting the funds out of that trust, turning it over to you, bankrupting you, sending you to court, paying all these fees because you don't know how to pay the bill.
Double dipping.
Yep. And he said that on like the press, whatever they do, the press conference, right there on national TV. No one picked up on it.
Hey, if you find that video, you gotta send that to me.
It was on C-SPAN, but yeah, I might be able to find it here now. But no one picked up on that. And I'm like, holy moly. And I'm like, they're telling you right there. And I know it was all a coded message because I want to say he's working for the people like us, you know, who actually in the know.
Yeah, they don't say it. Look, I don't know if you saw the video a while back. It's been a while. Where Feinstein was questioning this guy about emoluments. And the guy explained what emoluments were, right? And nobody paid attention. Now, I have no 100% evidence to back this up, but I'm going to tell you what, I don't believe in coincidences. Now, you wasn't on when I was talking about the remonstrance process, but my buddy Chris Hallett, he has definitely gotten the ear of certain state legislatures and congressmen and Supreme Court justices. He's had to make a couple of trips to D.C. He has filed practitioner's reports with the state of Florida, state of Ohio, and or D.C. He will file something, and within a couple of weeks, you'll see him implement it.
Huh.
He sent a letter to Feinstein. He showed us the letter, shows when it was dated, and within a couple of weeks of her getting that letter, it was for a political inquiry on emoluments. What does she do? She has this guy up in front of Congress doing an inquiry about emoluments. And my buddy Kirk Pendergrass, he said, yeah, he said 2 years ago when Chris was telling me he was doing this stuff, he said, honestly, I thought he was full of shit. He said, but I've been knowing him for 2 years, and he will show me what he sends off, and then he says, wait. He has seen Trump implement executive orders like the one he did on the 28th, because why? He explained to the president Article 4, Section 4, where it talks about domestic violence. He showed to Trump how that what is the role of government for domestic tranquility, domestic violence is to protect against invasion. So what did Trump end up doing? He passed an executive order where he moved the agency that does all the background checks to the Department of Defense. Because the government's role is to protect against domestic violence.
That's pretty interesting. I wonder if that has a lot to do with the business side of things as well, work related.
Kinda, but see, domestic violence, every one of these states that have give out orders of protections based on domestic violence, those are illegal orders.
Right.
Because that's a separation of powers problem. Who is the only people that is to protect against domestic violence, and what is domestic violence? That's a foreign invasion. That's the role of the federal government / Congress.
Right.
Congress cannot pass a law saying domestic violence is in the home. No, that's not what the Constitution says.
Huh. Well, I did put, not changing the subject too quickly here, but I did put that speech from his doctor, and it's at this talking point where he actually goes into his dissertation. It's quite interesting. So you guys might be able to play it in this
We'll
chat
copy
room.
that link.
How many people on the call have their 98 number? I'm sorry. Sorry, Alan.
Yeah, I'm on.
One here do not.
I do.
You ain't bothering me. I don't have mine yet. I have
mine.
this. You know how you're being told that you're supposed to have this foreign out-of-country trust, right?
Yeah, we've been hearing that for years now.
I watched a video with Patrick Devine the other day. Now, I've been thinking this for years. That, wait a minute, if the states are all foreign to each other and the states are all foreign to the United States, if you are a North Carolinian in the Republic or a West Virginian or a New Yorker, you know, whatever the Republic state is, why couldn't you use your address, right? And I've been thinking that for years, because if you're foreign, you're foreign. It don't matter where, because the states are all countries, okay?
Right.
Patrick Devine supposedly got his 98 number using his Republic address.
Uh-huh.
So he didn't go out of the country and get some foreign address in another country. He did it right here in the U.S., did everything right here in the U.S.
It is pretty ironic you say that, because Trump mentioned that in one of his very first speeches, if not the State of the Union address, where he says that the people coming from the border are coming in incorrect. In other words, you know, there's the United States, then there's the states, then there's the America, then there's the citizens, all these different entities that we are still trying to figure out how they work with what we're doing. They're all different ways to come into the country. So we came in as a republic, which is what most of us put on our return addresses. It's set up that way, but I think that has a lot to do with the address change. But I think we're just kind of putting a P.O. box on there.
Well, I know that there's a video that Rob Ryder put out. It's called Gateway to the Republic. And he's showing all the documents dealing with the original post office.
Right.
And why the post office is still the gateway to the Republic. That's why you have to go through the post office to get your passport.
Right. It's the original bank. The only bank, actually.
So there's a great book out there. It's called The Republic is the House No One Lives In. I don't know if you've heard of it. So it might be worth looking into.
All right.
But everybody's trying to gain their freedom. And I'm not saying the SPC process isn't a good way to go, but it's only one process.
Right.
And I think becoming a secured party is a good thing if you're going to be in commerce.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Well, we have to be in commerce.
No, you don't.
You just have a regular job.
You don't have to be in commerce. If you are going to be self-employed and you're going to work right around your neighborhood and you're going to do your own private contracts, you don't have to be in interstate commerce.
Right.
You're going to have to buy groceries.
Buying groceries doesn't put you in commerce.
That just makes you a taxpayer.
No, buying groceries just means you have a right to feed yourself.
That too.
Okay. It's if all you're trying to do is get out of the system and just live a private, quiet life, you really don't have to go through the whole secured party process. You can do your own private contracts and just notify the proper parties. I got a friend of mine in Indiana, has no driver's license. His car's not registered with the state. He travels as he sees fit. Did he have to fight for it? Hell yeah. Do they leave him alone now? Yeah. And he's private. They don't even come on his property without permission.
Is his name David?
David Roach.
I just talked to him the other night.
And guess what? Did he do this whole secure party process? No.
Nope, he didn't.
It's all on what you're trying to do.
Yeah, he's all UCC. He's not that foreign grantor trust, putting liens on. I spoke to him many times.
Now you, David, you say you're going to work. Now me and you're going to have to talk sometime. Because I'm going to tell you now, and I've talked to a couple guys that have some pretty decent YouTube channels dealing with trucking. And what do? They actually got a website and they offer business ideas and stuff for owner operators, right? And what is the number one thing they tell everybody to do? Get an LLC. Trust me, when I first got mine almost 4 years, 4 years ago. It'll be 4 years next week. I did the LLC until I started figuring out about the truth about trust law. And I said, now I wish I hadn't done the LLC.
Okay. I'm a fan of the LLC.
I'm not. One, if you go read the top of the paper of what it says on your LLC, it says, to all whom these presents shall come, greetings. What is a present? It's a gift. What you did is you just gave your business to the state. Now they give you this license that says, hey, now you be a good boy. You play by our rules and you can run our business.
Yeah. Oh, I understand that. I see our side of it, but most people, that aren't waking up, They don't see that side of it.
Because of me learning about trust law, the company I work for is a pretty good sized company. We got like 500 trucks. And all the way up to the owner of the company, they treat you like family. They got an open door policy. So I caught Robert Schilling alone in the garage one day. I said, "Hey, Robert, I got a none of my business question." He said, "Yeah." I said, "Is Fresh you trust?" I said, "That's what I thought." And so I told him what I was looking at doing. I said, "I'm working towards getting all my stuff set up to set up a private business trust. And I want to get a private contract established. I want to pay and everything to stay the same, everything to stay the same." I said, "But tax evasion is illegal, tax avoidance is not, and a contract between trust is private." He smiled. He said, "You're absolutely right." He said, "When you get everything ready, let me know. I'll get you in touch with who you need to get in touch with."
Mm-hmm.
So then all my compensation will come from the trust and would be that.
Yep. I'm right now. I'm in Chicago and specialize in all foreigners, mostly Eastern Europeans and Macedonians, and you know the money I see these guys make. Now I deal with their personal credit. I see their social security numbers, I see their EINs, and I see their LLC numbers and all that. They're usually, when you come over here, they're usually handed a 98 number right away. I've seen plenty of 98s. I've seen plenty of 84s. You know, natural born citizens have to bend over backwards to get these numbers, and they're handed these numbers.
I was just about to say that. I call it the immigrant.
And they are tax-free under those numbers, and the only time you get a 98 number is if you're set up as a trust.
Yep.
They're automatically set up when they come over, I believe. I don't think they know what they're getting.
I don't think they do either.
And they listen. I've seen these people. I've seen them spend $50,000 in a week. I've seen it, and they can't understand why Americans are so poor and broke and hungry, and they can't pay their bills on time.
And you have to tell them is because you know all that stuff they giving you, they won't give that to us.
I told them that.
And they don't understand that, do they?
They don't.
That's like that situation where, you know, we can have 25 hurricanes, but not one country outside of this country could send an aid. It's illegal. I don't know what that is about, but I do know what it's about. It's just hard to share with people.
It's slavery.
There you know, yeah. And it's literally slavery.
Look, the Constitution protects that peculiar institution.
It's an old rule.
They did not do away with slavery.
Right.
The 14th Amendment only applied to the former slaves. How did they get everybody else to go along with it?
Because they made us all slaves.
Citizen and sign the documents. Yeah.
And keep in mind those slaves.
I got a friend of mine. Huh?
I'm just gonna say those slaves that we think of, they weren't African Americans. They weren't black. That's just
black. Hey, black in law doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean a color.
I know. That's my point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the secrets that would throw this country upside down if they truly knew the true history of slavery. It wasn't the people that they
most of the actual slaves were indentured servants, and once they got their debt paid off, guess what? They were free.
Yep.
That's why one of the biggest slave owners was a black man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and don't tell that to the liberals. They'll go all ape shit.
And most of those slaves were from Britain and South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't.
I mean, people are so freaking ignorant.
Yep.
Usaville the other day, he said it. I presume y'all know who he is. He said it the other day on one of his shows or videos or something I was listening to. He said, black people, he said, we know the real deal about slavery and how it's going on. He said, it's the white people that don't know it. If the white people ever find out, the system will change. because they got guns. They'll be up there taking Congress over.
Exactly.
I said, you
Exactly.
know what? I said, my friend Victor McAllister in Durham, he's a black guy, right?
Uh-huh.
He told me that one day. He said, man, I knew that one day the only thing that would change this system is when the white people figure out that they're just as much a slave as the rest of us.
Yep.
I said, man, shoot. I said, it took me a while, but I'm a white guy, I ain't gonna lie. And I figured it out. And I said, shoot, y'all put y'all's pants on the same way I do. I ain't scared of y'all no more.
Yeah, then that's when we realized we're all in the same boat.
Yep.
That's right. What have I got to be scared of? That person in that black road, you go home to your family every day. You put your pants on the same way I do. You answer to the same God I do. Do you think I'm afraid of you? No. I'm afraid of the God that can destroy my soul and my body.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, I was kind of sent the message to see if there's any more questions, any hot topics, or something to get out for tonight, or are we going to call it a night? Because it's getting kind of late.
Is that Maria's term of telling me to shut up? I tend to talk a lot.
Is she laughing?
I laughed.
Is she the one laughing?
I just want to make
No,
sure everybody gets their questions answered.
Yeah.
I double mute, and then I forget that I've double muted, so then I have to double unmute.
My last point is, if you want to know more about the true nature of slavery, just Google the Bacon's Rebellion. That would enlighten a lot of people's minds.
I'll tell you another video to look up, the Bonus Army.
Mm.
Oh, how do I say it? Albertatum Maximus?
Look, libertatum is Latin for liberty. So libertatum. So what it means is a liberty. It's a libertatum.
Well, anyway, we're connected on Facebook now, so anything you want to know personally, privately, whatever, or professionally, reach out to me because I got everything hooked up for you.
Oh, we'll definitely communicate. It'll probably be the first of the week after I get back on the road.
That's fine. I'm in my office. I'm not leaving back for Pennsylvania until the Ford Carlisle car show.
Okay.
So there's a chance I'm going to try to see Marie on that trip.
I need to get out. I need to get out to Indianapolis and say, "Hey, Marie, come over here to Flying J. Come see me. I'll let you pet my puppy."
I'm glad you have a nice puppy.
Oh, she's beautiful. She just turned a year old in March. You know that, don't you?
Oh.
What kind of dog?
She's a pit bull mix, and she don't know a freaking stranger. She loves everyone. I think she loves everyone more than me sometimes.
I can hear her. She's happy you're talking about her.
Now she's all up in my face saying, "I know you're talking about me." Ain't that right, Luna?
Any more changes to the form, Sandy? I'm gonna print this off, save it, and I'm gonna send it to Marie to share.
Y'all upload it.
The thing I did different was I did put my thumbprint on it, but that was it.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Thumbprint and a stamp?
I did not put a stamp on it, but I did put my thumbprint.
Oh, I have a question for you. Did you handwrite it? I guess you did
I
handwrite
did.
it. Okay, yes, that's normal.
I did handwrite.
Okay.
Like Eon does, you could put, if somebody wanted to put their cold number on there, they could just find a blank space on the form to put it.
Okay.
Or change something around and squeeze it in.
I really think you got to put the number on it because, like, if you're a mother or a father, you've got, under Minnesota Rule 220, depending on how many kids you got, you're the owner of each and every certificate. How are you going to freaking claim them all with the same name unless you've got some way to identify the different ones?
Point.
Might have to go back and watch that Eon video and see if on the birth certificate if he put the name or did he put the certificate number.
See, I have my authenticated birth certificate. I have 2 of them, and there's 2 different numbers on the top. And
I've got to order.
those are QSIPs.
I'm getting ready to. Well, if they're QSIPs, I got to see proof of that because QSIPs usually start with a number letter combination, and I haven't seen many QSIPs that would be that certificate number. But you can take that certificate number, probably remove the dashes, and do a search on the Treasury Direct paper bonds search menu, and probably find the value.
I heard that that number is a number that is allocated to the state of which one is born, and that bank account is affixed to that state.
Well,
Is
see,
that
when we
600,000
looked
a
up,
year?
yeah, when I looked up, I think I looked up mine. I'd have to go dig it up again, and I think it's like you put it in the denomination, and I think I selected 10,000. And then to the right of that, it gives you a dollar amount. And I think that was like 50-some thousand, right? And I said, wait a minute. I know it's not just 50,000. Is that 50-some thousand
times
is
a million?
10,000 times the 10,000, which would make it a $500,000?
Yeah.
Or is it each dollar is a 10,000 representation? How do you read it? You know what I'm saying?
Right. I think it's TD Ameritrade on one of those sites. It's every 1,000 or so is worth 1 million. It's an asterisk. So
Yeah, the fractional, it's fractional banking, everything's times 10.
Yeah, Fidelity. Yeah.
So that would be, mine is like $5 billion.
Right. The only problem is I found out that, well, I called the Secretary of State where I live here. We played the call. One of these calls got it somewhere. But basically, I called the Secretary of State, and the lady told me that once you get that certificate of incumbency, that's all that state has to do with it. There's nothing further that they can do with it. But she says if you wanted to activate it, say you use Taiwan, Jamaica, wherever, Morocco, you would have to have the Moroccan, Taiwan, or Jamaican embassy stamp it. Now you're ready to do business. That's what she told me.
And access the $5 billion?
Access to funds. But she didn't say that, but I suppose. But the fact that it's an incumbency means that office is now open. So we have the highest office in the land on a private side.
And you can actually start showing that thing and writing your own certificate numbers off of it and doing things.
That's what I believe. And I believe that's what, I don't know for a fact, but I believe that's what PJ is trying to do. But it seems as though a lot of his stuff has yet to be delivered. But if he says it just because he's doing classes, who knows?
Hey, I'm looking at the W-4 process, honestly. If I can do the W-4 process and get back all that money that they're using against me, they can do whatever they want with the birth certificate. I can care less.
I just want to know how to do it myself. Anything with the forms, but they will not assist you. You know,
I mean, shoot, if I made $174,000 and I do the W-4 process that I was talking about, and I get back my $174,000 and don't got to pay taxes on it,
yeah,
and I get a check like that from the Treasury saying, okay, you reported properly, here's your check. I would care less. I'd be a millionaire in a few years.
That's what it's all about. But the other thing is open up a bank account. Is it a trust account that you got to get with Fidelity or some regular bank.na, or can you convert?
Now the other thing, when you said open up a bank account, one of the things you do is you sign a bank signature card, right? The one little secret they're not telling you about is everything is going under general deposit.
That's true. Yep.
You have to specifically either write it on the signature card for special deposit only, or make them set it up for special deposit only to have a private bank account.
Non-interest bearing.
Anybody have a TDA account?
I did till they locked my account.
What were you using it for?
I didn't actually get a chance to use it because I actually sent the forms in from the Treasury website, and the OIG accused me of fraudulent practices. They didn't deny that the minor account existed. They just said they own it.
See, I opened mine recently, and I sent in my my hard lock removal with a medallion stamp,
Mm-hmm.
and then I don't know what to do. And then somebody filled out a FinCEN application for me, and I have a FinCEN number.
The other thing you got to do is, if yours is still open, purchase a security. The minimum purchase is $25. If you purchase less than $25, then it's only a certificate of indebtedness. If you do a full $25 security and leave it in there, if they lock your account, now you have an equitable interest because you own a security. See what I'm saying?
What kind of security do I buy for $25?
Whatever they got. I can't tell you that.
Probably gold or silver.
No, I don't know. It's whatever they've got there. You look at what they have.
Yeah.
Maybe I can buy part of my court case for $25.
Well, that court case worth more than $25.
I know, that's why I want the bonds.
Yeah, once you finish that process, man, take it slow, but do it right, and record everything you do so we can
Yeah,
see it.
record phone calls. Yeah, record phone calls, record everything.
I do paper. I'm strictly paper.
That's smart.
No, I don't. Hey, paper's good. I do, but here's the problem. I've been writing the OIG, and guess what? They freaking ignore me.
The OIG?
Yeah, the OIG is the attorney for the Treasury.
Okay.
So
Maybe
they
they
locked
haven't-
they locked my TDA account and labeled me as a sovereign citizen.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know if
I
you guys.
laughed when they told me that.
I don't know if you guys know this, but you know Tony King, he's back teaching again in LA.
Yeah, I know. I heard about that.
Yeah. Now, the one thing that he did say was that Obama exhausted or terminate, I don't know, extinguish, whatever the word would be, emptied out all those TDA accounts. And I think there was a period of time, I think it was 60 or 90 days, transitioning from what we call New Year's between 2017 and 2018. No, 2016. They closed all the Treasury or the FedWire to replenish those funds.
I heard something similar to that. It was more called a fiscal reset or a bond reset.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't necessarily say it was Obama.
I wouldn't say it was him either, but that's what, they just want to make him look like a bad dude. But
well, that's why we had our shutdown. It was
Right.
the money resetting.
Obama was a bad dude.
I think he was forced because you got to remember when Grandmama died, that's when everything changed with Obama.
Hey, he was not for us.
I don't know.
I mean, you even go look at his familial ties, and they'll tell you he was not for us.
Yeah.
He was a Marxist, and he was grown from the age of 8 for that position to do exactly what he did, and we became the most divisive country because of his administration. We were not that divided before him. I mean, yeah, we had our problems. Bush wasn't exactly a saint, but look at the race divide that happened after Obama. That was insane, and it's still bad. And what's the Bible say? A house divided can't stand.
That's right.
It breaks my heart. I never thought I'd see our country in the shape it's in.
I never thought I'd live through it because I'm pretty up there in my age.
I'm just glad I'm getting the hell out.
Yeah.
Get out!
We all are.
I'm good. I want to escape. I have my foreign grantor trust. I haven't have the paperwork set it up, but I am leaving the United States of America. I might still stay here, but I'm leaving.
You're leaving the corporation.
I'm leaving the corporation. You know what? If that's true, heaven on earth after that, I access my set of key trust, and if there's such a thing, and I can discharge anything I want with my signature and social security number, you know what? That's all I need. I'll be okay with that.
I'm gonna start freaking sending my bills to the Treasury.
No,
Actually,
sounds good.
I'm really thinking about the W-4 process. Pay the bills throughout the year.
Now, another thing you can do, I know we kind of forgot this, but Ken W. was the one that showed everybody. You just retire from the militia within one state of birth or wherever they live, and send that notice in to the governor, and then the governor now, you know, all the bills we send to him. That's your new billing address. Everything.
It's new to me.
That's probably the most simple way to get out of the system, and a lot of times,
well,
no one wants to retire from it.
I've not seen that video. The one
It's not even.
I have seen the birth certificate videos he's done, and it does make me think that if you resign as the agent, what is the role of the agent? The service of process, and what is the agent supposed to do? Send it to the principal. Who is the principal? The Secretary of State. Why not send him the bills? Do an address change for all the bills and send them to the Secretary of Treasury.
And that's what it states in each of our state's constitution. Tells you exactly what to do. And that was one of the questions that I asked the Secretary of State. I don't know what it was like the Division of Corporations for the birth certificate, but she didn't have a clue what I was talking about. And
well, I know that it's getting late, and if we keep talking, we'll find stuff to talk about.
Oh yeah.
You want to continue this? Next week?
Marie, it's your call.
Oh yeah, next Friday, unless there's a reason to have it another one earlier.
Yeah.
All right, thanks everybody.
Look up one thing before you go. Look up a YouTube channel. Type in the number 7 times, okay? And then type in Thunders. It's called The Birth Certificate and You. It's the only video on the channel. And he explains what the role of the agent is near the end of the video. But watch that video. And then when we get back together, give everybody time to think about it and say, wait a minute, if we're supposed to only be the agent, and what's the agent supposed to do? Send it to notify the principal? We're not notifying the principal.
Here, I'll do it while I'm screen sharing. 7 times, and then the word thunders.
No, just 777 thunders.
No, it's the number 7, and you type that number 7 times.
Oh.
It's 7 sevens. Thunders.
Okay.
Thunders.
7 times.
There you go. It's on the screen.
All right. Could you link that in there real quick? I guess it's that simple. Yeah. That's fine.
I'll get a link and send it to Marie, and she could post it in the group. Is that okay?
I don't need a link, thanks.
Okay.
Laquetta's sharing something in chat.
Yes. Earlier, I can't say your name. Tatum. I know you pronounced it.
Tatum, me, yes.
A Libertatum, you're talking about special deposits. That book that I linked there, it is the law of deposits, and it has a section on special deposits, and you're absolutely correct in what you were saying, and that will give you more information. When I first learned about special deposits, I tried to search, and like most books that I came across had like one sentence regarding special deposits. This has a couple of pages. It's got a little bit more explanatory information.
Wow.
And I was told, and I haven't done it because, one day off a week is usually Sunday, so I'm not home during the week. I was really contemplating going back to my bank and say, can I see my signature card? I need to redo it. I've got to change something and write for special deposit only on the signature card.
That is correct. And I can give you this short rundown. Basically, general deposit title transfers to the bank, whereas special deposit, you retain the title. And yes, you can go back and change a general deposit into a special deposit.
Yes,
Thank you.
and that takes it out of the jurisdiction of the IRS. Because all banks are under federal jurisdiction. There's an actual court case that says the banks are the part of the federal government. When you step into a bank, you are stepping into the United States.
Awesome. Thank you.
But
Whomever that was.
they cannot deny you a bank account, so that's where the special deposit comes in, because a private man has a private account. Thank you, young lady. I love you forever. That is awesome.
Well, I got that from my friend Mike, and I started reading that a couple of days ago, and I'm like, yeah, I can't put that one down.
No.
And it's easy to read. It is not filled with legalese.
Bunch of legalese, yeah.
What was that again?
The book link that I put in the chat, it's called The Law of Deposits, and it will tell you about general deposits. It also tells you about special deposits. It's also something called a specific deposit, a deposit for a specific purpose. But anyway, it's basically telling you, yeah, you want to do a special deposit on everything that you turn your signature in for, whether it's a bank account or your driver's license application, employment application, anything you put your signature on, you want to put that it's a special deposit.
Nice. Thank you.
So you could send a bond to the Treasury and put for special deposit.
You're talking about the birth certificate. There's
No,
an
I'm talking
idea.
about just a private bond, period.
Oh, a
for
private
special
one.
deposit.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you could do that. What is the Treasury? It's a big-ass bank.
Correct.
Does this look right?
Yes, that's it.
I got a different question than this is like my final question. It's two-part. Does anyone know much about the 8300 forms? And if they do, is it a necessity to do a county type recording? Should we use it, or can we just put it on a UCC?
Well, I don't know about the 8300 forms. I don't even know what they are. But if it's something dealing with a property interest, you're going to become a friend of the Register of Deeds office.
Okay.
I've got 2 power of attorneys registered at the Register of Deeds office. I'm going to be working on my quote unquote, because you can't actually cite Minnesota Rule 220 itself, but I'm working on the Minnesota Rule 220. I'm getting ready to order me 4 more birth certificates, and I'm going to do the Minnesota Rule 220 process to let the government know I'm age of majority, do my affidavit of identity, and then I'm going to end up filing them at the county recorder's office as my property.
I actually I want to do the Minnesota 222 as well, not 222.
You know what I did?
Yeah, I know what you meant.
You know what? I couldn't record mine, so I went down to the DMV and recorded it there.
Now, hold on. When you can't record the birth certificate itself, what do? You do a document notating the certificate number.
Right.
They don't know the difference. And what is and so when you actually got the recording notating what the certificate number is, you've got the certificate in your possession. Then you can do a UCC1 on said certificate number because you've registered it with the Register of Deeds, and you can put the value at whatever you want.
Yep. Well, the other thing I did was I went into probate court and used that also in probate court to go from all caps to upper lower.
Mm-hmm.
And I put that on the record
in
that way.
1910. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to overstep you.
No.
Marie, I gotta let y'all go. My wife's talk to y'all.
Yep, he just got kicked out.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Peace.
Thank you. Bye, Marie.
Bye.
Don't forget to save the chat if you guys want it. Just more and then save chat.
What will we talk about in chat?
Like down below where you type, there's a little icon that says more. And if there's something in the chat that was pretty interesting, you can save and just save it to your desktop.
Oh, okay. I'll give that a try. I didn't know what everybody was talking about in chat.
Yeah. All right, man. Good luck on your GS forms, and if it does work out, that's worth sharing, believe me.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Peace. Bye, Marie.
Bye.
Are you still there, Murray?
Yeah, I had to close a bunch of windows.
Oh, okay. I was gonna. Are you?
Just hang on a second. I'm gonna stop the recording. Hang on. Wait, please. Oh, I need to request it from the host. You can go ahead and stop the meeting.
Oh.
What?
Oh, it's okay. Pause recording. Or stop.